Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the annual notice of regularly scheduled meetings of the Municipal Council for the year 2023, which was published as a legal advertisement in the Herald News and the Record on December 12, 2022. Further notice of this meeting was given on Friday prior to the meeting by posting said notice on the bulletin board at City Hall and on the City of Clifton's website, which notices stated that formal action may or may not be taken on the matters to come before the Municipal Council. Roll call.
Councilman Gibson?
Here.
Councilman Kaloje?
Present.
Councilman Latona?
Here.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Here.
Councilwoman Pino?
Here.
Councilman Sedgwickula?
Here.
Mayor Grabowski?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. So we'll start with action items. Action item 1,
Move it.
Second.
hearing no objections. Action item 2, Weezerbrook stabilization and sanitary sewer improvements through Ravine Park.
Move it. Second.
Mayor, through you to the city manager.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Mr. Valano, does this sewer improvement go through, is this through Black Prince as well?
Eventually, it does end up through the Black Prince property, yes.
Okay.
Mayor, through you also, the city manager.
Councilman?
Mr. Volano, I seen on this that the work is going up from 82,000, it's a 17,000 change. So I just have a couple questions. I'm glad to see it did go out to bid, correct? Okay, so each time, just if you can explain to me, each time when we have these larger contracts, we are going out to bid for services for them?
You know, Councilman, I think as a rule of thumb going forward, we'll do that, right? So we'll take the sort of the guesswork, we'll just get 3 quotes and, you know.
I seen this one, they were half as much as the other two. I was actually shocked the difference in the work. So the
Right.
scope is only 17,000 more, which is still half, but I just wanted to know that's kind of the process that it does go out
I
to
think
bid.
when we re-implement that just going forward, we'll just abide by that.
That's all I have, thank you.
Okay.
Mayor, through you, one other question that I
I'm
forgot.
sorry, excuse me, Councilwoman. Shouldn't we have the door open just because it's a public, or is the door supposed to be open? Thank you.
Mayor, through you to
Councilwoman.
this, yes, Mayor, through you to the city manager. I have been asking, and it would be helpful if the CFO can put not only the account number where the funds are available, but the name as well.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
What would you like from the CFO?
On the resolution, it has the account, the account number where the funds are available.
Correct.
The name could be there as well. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not.
The name of the account?
Please.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's possible, right, Nick?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when you're certifying, when the CFO certifies the funds, it is usually an account number on the bottom. What the councilwoman is saying is with that account number, label what it is.
Okay, so it makes it easy to look up the information. Okay.
It would have to be added.
Action item 3, Pearlbrook Third River Original Drain Study.
Move it.
Second.
Hearing no
I have some questions. Mr. Valano, Mayor, through you to the city manager.
Actually, we rushed to get this on, but we are not quite ready to discuss it. At the last meeting, you have asked us that we provide you an explanation why the original study increased, right? I believe the city clerk, Madam Clerk, you handed out a proposal of the original proposal for the Nigerian. You gave one to all the council members, right? So if we could table this, and I would like to sit down and get a better explanation for you rather than to have a discussion that I'm really not prepared to discuss tonight.
I'll make the motion to table, but before I do so, since there's no discussion, Mayor, through you to the city manager, a few questions that I have that if you can ask, because when I look at their explanation, as you can see, they're saying tasks 1 through 6 is 75% of the total. I remember early on us talking about the questionnaire when we first had that meeting. So at what point did they ever tell you that this is going to be extra, and how much did they give you an idea of how much it would be? So when you're going through all this, if you can look at that, because it's...
We had some similar questions, that's why we had requested it be tabled, so if you could hold them to the next meeting.
And you know what, I know it's not in here, but maybe we could go back and review the tape, because I know early on, even when we talked about it, the questionnaire and the site visit to the resident's property was part of it. I don't know how you could possibly do this without that. So if you can.
Well, do we have a
So
second on the
again,
table?
if we could table it, and then
Yeah.
we'll provide you with the explanation that
I'll
you're
make
We
looking
have a
for.
second.
To table.
We have a second.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Just to go back to A2, so what the councilwoman is asking is that, or she has been asking actually for quite some time. I just want to make sure that the rest of you are okay. What we're going to be, you're asking the CFO to show is that when he certifies the funds on a resolution, right? You want to see the account number and the name of that account as it appears in the budget. Is that what we're asking for?
Yeah, the
Right?
name, yes.
And now, is everybody on board with this
Oh, 'cause,
request?
yeah, first of all, does anyone else want this?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
We have,
Thank you.
we have three. Anyone else want this?
I'd like to have it there also.
Mr. Latona? That's three. Okay, we'll take a roll call. Councilman,
Yes.
Councilman Kalojay?
Yes.
Councilman Latona?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sedgwick?
Yes.
Mayor
Yes.
Guzekowski? Motion
okay,
carried.
thank you, Nick, because we need 4 votes for things like this.
So in the resolution that we're actually going to approve later on today, it gives us the department, the account number. It's insurance, the finance admin, tax collector, engineering, S&W, healthcare waiver, building, DPW, O&E, road department, O&E, senior citizen, S&W, animal control, S&W. So it's already there.
Mayor, through you to
Yes.
answer Councilman Kalojay. Sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not. So I think if it's there all the time,
So what you're asking for at any time?
yes,
Not
I
just
think
this
it's,
one?
yes,
Okay,
just
okay.
all the resolutions, all the account numbers have the name. Just, again, you have that information, and we just voted that
Just
it
so I'm
would
clear,
be-
what we voted on was
Exactly.
any time.
I thought I had said that, but
Is that
thank
clear
you.
with everyone? Okay.
Yeah, Mayor, to you, just for my edification, it just makes things easier when you're reading down on your action items. You know that, hey, we don't have to do our department head's work. We look at it. If the money is in the budget, it says it's in the budget and the account number that it's in, and that makes things easy rather than going back to the resolution, going down to find out what it is. So if we just have it, and because we're going along our action items, we know that we have the money in there, and that's I think it'd just be proactive.
Okay, so moved. A4, authorization to award contract for vegetation waste disposal.
Move it.
Mayor, through you to city manager.
Do I
I
have a
have a
second?
few.
Second.
Go ahead, Mr. Latona.
Mr. Lano, I have a few questions on this. Going off of A4 and A5, it's a bid for vegetative waste for RER Supply. And then I'm just a little also confused because in A5, part of the garbage contract, it's also vegetative waste for pickup under our garbage contract.
Well, as I explained at the recycling committee meeting, so the way we're bidding these contracts, right? You have a solid waste contract and you have a vegetative waste contract. Now, each contract, in essence, you're getting 2 bids. You're getting a bid for the hauler to go and collect the the waste, the recyclables, and then you have another contract with the disposal facility that accepts these recyclable or the grass, and we pay them separately. So in other words, we're going to cut 2 checks. One is for the hauler to go pick up collect all the recyclables or the grass, and 2, you're paying the disposal site for accepting and getting rid of the materials.
So for A4, the contract for vegetative waste disposal, so
The disposal.
Roselli's picking it up?
No, this RER is a disposal facility. I believe they're Totowa or one of these, the nearby towns. But we bring, I should say that, the Roselli collects the vegetative waste. They bring it to the DPW yard, and we have a place that we put it temporarily. RER sends these big trucks, the larger hauling trucks, and we load it, and they bring it to the disposal, to the site for disposal.
So part of our garbage contract then is we're picking it up to dump it, it all gets dumped at DPW, and then
At
it
the
gets...
DPW, then we load
And
it
all
on their
that labor,
trucks
time, and hours to get it picked up, and then we spend another $2 million over the years to
to get rid of
have it then
it.
dropped off.
Correct. One is to collect it and bring it to the yard. The other is to pay the disposal facility to get rid of it.
And I don't know if it's too late to do it now, but is there any way to set it up to where instead of paying twice and all the labor hours and time to pick it up and dump it off for 93,000 residents?
No,
to have
actually,
it
well,
picked up and then dropped off?
let me backtrack, because so both contracts are set up the same way. The difference between the vegetative waste and the solid waste, right? The garbage versus the grass, is the grass, we pick it up and we bring it to the DPW yard. We found that that's the best and fastest and more economical way of doing it. I understand you're dropping it on the ground, but you're reloading it, but the time it takes for that truck to go bring it and dispose of it, you're losing time on the collection. So we found that it would be best to put it on the ground. When they're ready to accept it, they send their trucks and they pick it up. We just load it. And we have a person in the yard at all the time. With the solid waste or the garbage, we have Roselli, who also won the bid, is they will collect the garbage, but they go directly to the disposal site, Cavanta. So that's where we bring our garbage to, and in turn, then we pay that disposal site for just getting rid of it.
All right, so then just lastly, so really, when our garbage contract that's coming up on A5 is $8 million, we almost have to add the two of these together to get a real gauge number of what our garbage and vegetative waste
Correct.
disposal costs are, plus the labor time, because we're dropping it off and having DPW employees drop it out, pick it up.
That's correct. That's all accounted
So
for.
really, the two of
in-
them together is our true garbage cost.
Right, so however, when you go into the budget, those numbers are combined, because in the budget, we put the cost of hauling, picking it up, and disposing on both items. So in other words, the four totals are going to be totaled and put into the budget as one number.
Okay.
And so when you're probably going to see like a number of like almost $10 million. That's really what it costs for us to collect it and dispose both the garbage and the grass and the trees and the stumps and all that.
Combined number. Yeah.
And one last thing on this, I seen, this is new RER supply to do this for us?
We've
for this
been
big-
dealing with RER for quite some time now. They've had
Okay,
the
because I
client.
seen on the other page to do the extension with someone for the 2-year extension is only going to be $331,000 a year, but when we do this 5-year contract and you divide it into years, it's $40,000 more a year. So why wouldn't we have done the 2-year extension and save
2 months, 2 months extension, I think you're referring to, right?
No, option year 2, it says if we would have taken the extension, it would have been, option year 2 was $331,225.
Yeah. So if you look at that, Council, if I may, Dave, I'm assuming you're looking at R229-18 on the top, it says? It's sort of like a table,
At this, right?
there are two sets of tables, in
Yes.
the- right?
I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, so-
R22918.
If you look at the bottom table where it says option 2, transported by contractor, what we did is we gave you the 2021 numbers and the 2022 numbers, so as a comparison, just to show you that the difference pretty much remained the same. It didn't go up very much.
So if we would have done the 2-year extension, it wouldn't have been $331,000 for the next 2 years? Because that's how I'm reading this.
Yeah, we did the extension. Yeah.
Okay,
This is the cost for the extension.
okay.
Just to be clear, we also did a 2-month extension on the solid waste because the contract ended in December and we extended it 2 months. That's why in the garbage, you're getting a 4-year and 10-month,
Okay,
10 months of service, because the 2 months are already, January and February of this month are already accounted for and paid separately to the hauler.
all right, thank you.
Councilwoman?
Mayor, through you to
Sorry,
the city manager.
Councilwoman Murphy has the floor first, please.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
This is just a simple question. When the vegetative waste guys fill their truck up and they bring it to the DPW, do they dump it and then they have to go back out again because there's so much vegetative waste?
Correct, because for garbage, you have 2 days in one section and 2 days in the other section. So 4 of your 5 days are taken up by garbage collection. Wednesdays, starting in March, are allocated strictly for vegetative waste. So what happens on that, we want to utilize that day the most we can, rather than having the hauler go back and forth to go dump and come back. So what he does is we dump at DPW, go back to a route, finishes up, and then they knock off for the day.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Sadrikula.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Valano, I see that the option for the chipping has gone up significantly from $49.45 to $6,490. What happened to the chipper we had? Didn't we have a chipper?
Yeah, we do our own chipping, but there are times that we get too far behind and we have an opportunity, or we contract it with someone to just kind of get us caught up. So you have all these trees that are cut down, but you have all these stumps left behind. A perfect example was Rutgers Place. If you remember that, that took a while for us. So I suggested, why don't we just get a company in, help our guys just get caught up, because we don't have enough equipment and time to get it all done. So when we fall behind, we use this service.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, hearing no objections, so moved. A5, authorization to award contract for collection of solid waste, bulk waste, and vegetation waste.
Move it.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I have a couple questions, Mayor.
Second?
City Manager. Sorry.
Joe.
Second, okay. Councilman Latona.
Mr. Valano, okay, I have a couple questions on this one. Starting with, I don't see where this bid was put in. I thought we were going to go from the meeting in September for a tonnage-based contract. According to number 7, the only change in this contract will be on fuel. So I thought the purpose of going to the tonnage-based contract, this looks like it's all in one, unless I'm missing something, which defeats the purpose of us lowering our tonnage costs.
We have Wayne DeFeo, who is the consultant that helped us prepare these specifications, because he's knowledgeable in bidding these kind of contracts. Why don't we get him on Zoom, and he could explain some of your concerns. He's been guiding the council all along throughout the bidding process, and he could explain that to you better. Incidentally, so if you remember, we also had a bid in there that we would buy the containers and all. Roselli basically bid one way. He said, I'm not giving all these other options, we're not doing, and I think the council was kind of in favor of not buying these containers. So in essence, what he said, this is my price. Is he zooming in? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll zoom
But
in.
I
and he could
understand that
explain.
part as we wait to get him up, but I'm
Yep.
talking about on the tonnage base.
Yep.
Is this contract tonnage-based or not tonnage-based? Because if it's not tonnage-based, it kind of defeats our purpose of pushing recycling to increase our tonnage to lower the cost. So if this isn't tonnage-based on this number, the number that was being used for the original contract when it came up last year, we were averaging 32,000 tons a year. Well, this past year, we were averaging about 24,000 tons.
Yeah.
So obviously, getting a contract based on the 24,000 tons, 20%, labor costs, pickup, less drop-off.
I understand what you're saying. So it's not quite, when these guys bid, when these haulers bid, they don't look at just 1 year. They typically go back 5 years, and that's what we provide them with, a 5-year. In essence, in this case, Roselli was the prior hauler, so he just had the information available. So to answer your question, no, it's not solely on tonnage, but it is, in essence, because how does a contractor know how many crews to put out in those 4 days without knowing how much garbage he has to collect? So the tonnage has to come into play, and also the tonnage plays a part in our grant, when we go for grants. So we have to keep accounting of how much tonnage we collect. But this is Wayne in the snow-filled panorama there. And so, Wayne, Councilman Latona has some questions regarding the solid waste bid.
Happy New
Good
Year.
evening, Happy New Year. So Wayne, I was just asking the city, through the city manager, a question on a tonnage contract, because we've been averaging about 24,000 tons this past year, and we're looking to do the tonnage-based contract, obviously to save money as we expand our recycling program. The lower money costs, obviously, leads to a lower garbage contract, which is already up 50%. And looking at year 4 and 5, it's supposed to go over 10 million a year, which is twice as much as where we are now. So my question is, it was my understanding we were supposed to put a bid in for it to be tonnage-based contract, because that number's averaging about 20% lower than using the previous year average while we were under COVID lockdowns.
Okay, so we did not, we had originally designed this bid, it's very strange, which I'm getting on my screen, I don't know if I could. We originally discussed this issue on several different occasions. Our per ton rate for garbage disposal is not typically done. We did not put it in per ton rate. At the time that was discussed on the second round of discussion, it was far too late to even consider it, given the problems that the Office of State Comptroller was creating with regard to the review of the bids. So the short answer is we did not put that in.
Right, my understanding was from the September meeting, the previous council directed the city administration to put in for that bid for those reasons. Let me see if I have any other questions for you. Price themselves. All right, that's all the questions I have for you. Like I said, it was my understanding we put in for that. Just one more question for you, Mr. Villano. I guess it's something we got to bring to recycling committee, but seeing that year 4 and 5 option on this garbage contract puts us over 10 million, I think we need to have that discussion. I know it came up I know multiple other towns, I started doing research, actually started doing their garbage in-house where the township took it over. So I just don't know with going to that number where 10 million a year.
I'm sorry, so I don't understand. What do you want to discuss at the?
Well, something to bring the recycling to look at bringing maybe the garbage pickup in-house, because year 4 and 5 of this contract already puts it over 10 million.
What you're saying is you want us to buy garbage trucks and hire people to pick up our own garbage?
It's just something I think we got to look
Yeah.
at through the recycling committee.
I don't know if that's going to be feasible.
10.
Yeah, because the number of crews we're going to need, see, Roselli has the crews and he has the equipment, so it's just, it's easier for him. For us to basically start from, we have to get trucks, we have to, in essence, you're going to create a whole department that's going to, within the DPW, that's going to pick up garbage. I think that's a discussion we should have. I don't know if we could jump right into that because it's going to be, it's not going to be cost effective.
Just something we need to look at, because again, it's going to be 10 million a year, and it's a monopoly. So if they want to come back and say it's going to be 15 million, there's nothing we can do about
Well,
it.
actually, the way it's structured is it's roughly about 8 million. So if you notice, over the 5 years, it increases by 500,000 each year. So it starts with about an 8 million contract first year, 8.5, 9, 9.5, 10. So at the end of the 5 year, you're going to go up to 10 million. But in the meantime, you're going to work your way up to that.
Point of order.
So, yes?
Can we have a roll call?
Yeah, sure, yeah, because we're voting on A5, so the discussion is for something else. We're just voting on A5 now, so can I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Gibson? Councilman Kalojay?
A5,
5 to approve
just
it.
A5,
Oh, we're not discussing it anymore.
no.
Because I do have a question for Mr. DeFeo, but yes, I would approve A5.
Councilman Latona?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sedgwick?
Yes, first, this was the only bid we received, and actually, given what other municipalities are facing, a 100% increase, this came in at the low side of what we were expecting. Wayne, thank you very much for all your help. We were pleasantly surprised that it was on the low end of what we were expecting. So thank you again, and yes, the vote is yes.
Mayor Grabowski?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Joe, do you still want you still want to ask the question?
Yes, I'm just sort of curious, because it's a pretty expensive contract, Mr. DeFeo, so you would think there would be more parties interested in getting a piece of that action. In your professional opinion, what led to only one bid coming in?
It's a very good question, Councilman, and you're not the first councilman to ask me that this year, I can assure you. We're finding limited competition for several reasons. One, the large and national companies, Republican Waste Management, well, only Waste Management services this particular geography, have made a corporate decision that they must receive corporate approval. As you know, large national corporations have multiple divisions. The individual divisions that used to be able to make the decision to bid a contract of this scope, as by the way, Waste Management did 5 years ago, no longer have the freedom to do so. They must now get corporate approval for the simple reason that national corporations are now making a conscious decision to say they do not wish to do manual collection or bulk collection, which is manual. Going forward on a municipal contract basis, they are interested in cart work or automated pickup. That is taking two major players out of the game, at least conceptually. In addition, clearly, COVID in 2020, although everyone was tired of hearing it, has had a dramatic impact on the industry in 3 ways. One, some of the lower cost providers simply couldn't survive. Their margins were too narrow. 2, companies are unable to bid new work because they can't get staff and they cannot get employees. In multiple cases around the state, I couldn't tell you the total number, but many of them that I spoke to, many of the contractors that are out there can field 9 out of their 15 trucks. They can't get drivers. They've raised rates, which, by the way, goes partly on the increase that you are seeing in your bid and in your contract. The rates have been raised concomitantly to the rate increases for salary. Cost of trucks, the average truck has gone up each year. There is a backlog in some cases, only 6 months, but up to 2 years. And this is for companies that normally would order trucks. Thus, competitors can't get new trucks. It's listed as a big contract. And they therefore can't bid because they could not get the truck on time. And the last of those trucks, going to that point of trucks, many have seal surcharges of as much as $10,000 to $15,000 to be tacked on, which again raises the price. So why are we seeing less competition? There are fewer companies able to provide the service on the scale that you need. People cannot get employees, just as it's true in most industries. Therefore, they are hesitant to bid new or expanded work. They are having trouble completing the work that they currently have. And 3, at least the largest of companies, are now saying we are going to withdraw from this market because we do not see a future in manual collection of solid waste.
So then I guess the follow-up question to that, because obviously 565 towns are all facing the same problem. The state of New Jersey changed the way we bid for garbage contracts years ago because of New Jersey's reputation for picking up garbage. Is there something at the state level that can be done from a legislative perspective that would actually help promote competition within the state of New Jersey for all 565 towns?
That's a very good question. That discussion is held many times. In fact, I had that discussion today on one of the boards I sit on. There is discussion of several effects. One is, the OSC, the Office of State Comptroller, really did cost us a lot of time. One of the other reasons you did not get other bids along with everything else is we simply lost lots of days to having to rewrite this bid to satisfy the Office of the State Comptroller. In my professional opinion, there was very little of those changes that added competition to the bid, but it did cost us more than 60 days in time. Secondly, the concept of the bid, period. There is a question, and I don't know the legality, so I'm not speaking legally, I'm speaking philosophically on what can increase competition. Of course, we can use requests for proposals for other types of services, but not for this type of service. I suspect that would take a significant change in the law. Those would be the two things that might impact it. But that's about it. The themselves are actually the uniform-based specification to the credit of the specification, restricted municipalities from adding things that made it harder for companies to bid, such as high insurance requirements outside the norm. Some towns used to do that many years ago. I do. And the uniform-based specifications did indeed help foster competition. So short of a draconian change in whether we bid or through RFP, I'm not certain there's a whole lot the state can do.
Appreciate the input.
Mayor, through you, a question. Wayne, later, and I don't know if you can come back on or if it's out of the scope of what we hired you for, but we have a discussion item about recycling of styrofoam.
Excuse me, Councilwoman, we voted on this, then we could bring that up in a different discussion. We were just voting on action on.
I understand that, but I wondered if he could come back on to if he has any.
During the conference.
During the discussion, but I don't know if that's part of what you had to do, and of course, I don't want to overstep my bounds.
Mr. Mayor, if we're going to do that, why don't we have it at the discussion now rather than bringing
Okay.
Mr. DeFeo
All right,
back?
if that's okay, sure.
Yeah.
'Cause
And just one last thing. So, Councilman Latona, and I hear what you're saying. Basically, you're saying, well, the council instructed a certain way, right? And why didn't we? What administration didn't change it. So what Wayne is saying is that, in essence, the state controller regulates how you're putting out your bids. So you just can't go out and do whatever you want and put whatever insurance limits you want. They made us, when I tell you, change commas. I mean, they were that, so we're talking with attorneys on the state level that are dictating to us how you're going to present your specs. Okay, so in essence, it has been taken over by the state because they regulate how you're going to bid it. So.
And just one thing on that, Ms. Solano, there was an article in the paper last week about the Mayor of Wayne basically talking about the monopolies of the garbage contracts and, basically going into how no one else is bidding on them. Because the question is, so what is the number at some point, if they would have came back and said, we're going to charge you $20 million a year, where does any town have any say, no matter what number they give us?
Sure. Well, Mr. DeFeo actually enlightened us that before we even went out to bid, and he made us aware that you're not going to get the number that you were previously paying, and you have to anticipate anywhere between a 35% to 150% increase. That's quite a wide range. Mm-hmm. We're closer to about the 50% mark with this bid. So, again, it's just the way the industry is operating these days.
So, Nick, do you say, while we have the expert on the phone, do you want to skip the discussion item now?
Let's go right to the discussion item,
Mayor.
and then Wayne could.
Mayor.
If that's okay with
Mayor.
everyone, get that over with now? Yes.
I just want to let you know that the people cannot hear what he is saying. So I don't know how we can fix that, but I know it's probably important.
You mean at home? At home?
Yeah, they can't hear him. They can't hear Wayne.
Okay, and I guess Mike is listening to us. Mike, if you could address the issue. The people at home are not able to hear the Zoom, right? Councilman Gibson? Okay, so Mike, they can't hear Wayne when he talks on Zoom.
Okay, so we will skip over from A5, we'll come back to A6, we'll have the discussion now. So whomever wants to start it, Councilwoman,
Thank you. Mayor, through you to Wayne.
go ahead.
Wayne, we have a proposal, and I don't know, the county of Passaic is, and Mr. Villano, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
They want to give us a machine to recycle styrofoam?
Correct, yes. So we, just to go back about a year or two, we showed an interest in this. If you remember, I brought it to council. It was about a $75,000 cost to buy the machine, and then another $25,000 or so to prep the barns, make sure we have the electric and so forth. Council voted that down. I guess we didn't fund it at our bond committee meeting, and so it failed. And so the county approached us on this, second round, if you will. They have the machine, and they gauge whether we had an interest. I told them I would have to bring to council. I think the cost will be, we'll make an agreement based on, we pay them $1 a year, the customary $1 per year. So it shows that we're not getting it for free, that we actually paid something. And so the discussion is if you want the machine, basically it's about I projected, it's very preliminary, I'm trying to utilize numbers that are other municipalities and counties are generating. So assuming that all 16 municipalities contribute to this, we could anticipate about an 18,000 plus revenue per year. So in essence, the first year be a wash, because the cost you're putting into the barn and getting everything ready, you're gonna get that in revenue. But we also have another option, is that we could pay for the improvements under one of our recycling grants. So in other words, if we were to do that, we pay it out of the grant. The first year, whatever income revenue we generate, that will come directly to the city. Really, you're not looking at this you're not going to make money, and you're not going to balance your budget with the revenue that you're anticipating. But what I'm hearing, and what I hear at the recycling committee, is that we want to try to take as much recyclables and things out of the solid waste stream. And really what you're doing here is you're removing a voluminous amount, it's not a heavy, but it's volume, of styrofoam that gets put in with the garbage. Of course, then if this is passed, we will have to straighten up our ordinances to make sure that people do pull it out. And if they don't, then there'll be an enforcement with penalties that the person will get if you don't recycle and you take the styrofoam out of your garbage.
Thank you for the background for him, Mr. Villano. So basically, we'll get into the specifics with the county. Wayne, from all the research that I have done, including on the New Jersey DEP website, it says basically because of the weight and, it's so light, and then recycling it, it's not economic. And Mr. Villano did say that it is basically the feeling is to take it out of the dumps and, you're doing something good for the environment. But my concern is this going to end up costing us more than it's added? As you know, we face a difficult budget year this year. We have a garbage contract that has gone significantly up. And as you know from I guess it was my first term, Wayne, and as you smile, when we did the cost analysis of the recycling, I'm big on cost analysis. And while I don't know the size of this machine, and I know it depends on how many pounds of styrofoam.
It's the size of an ATM machine, Councilwoman. So if you could picture, like the ATM machine that's in the hallway, that's about the size of it.
I meant the size in terms of volume of what it could handle per hour of compacting or breaking down the styrofoam. And then the cost of electricity. I mean, just look at our own bills. My bill has gone up significantly. So the cost of the electricity, the cost of having, and I believe Mr. Villano said it would take 2 people at the recycling center, and I won't even get into using our historic barns as recycling. That's a whole other discussion. But 2 employees, and as you did when you did the cost analysis for us years ago, you have to take part of those salaries and allocate it to this specific recycling program. And then, of course, how bringing other municipalities would be, in Passaic County, would be bringing their styrofoam to us. So that's wear and tear on our roads in the City Hall complex. And again...
But it's light.
What?
Styrofoam is light.
No, the trucks aren't white.
So,
the trucks aren't
Councilwoman,
light.
I know you're
light.
going in a direction here. So as far as we're not doing a recycling analysis here. What we're saying is, it's very simple. It's a simple decision the council has to make. You're going to get this machine for free, right? Because we're not going to get deliveries every day. Okay, so if you're envisioning a caravan of trucks lined up to go bring these containers to the city of Clifton, it doesn't happen like that. If you get one a week, one every 2 weeks, some of the smaller town, maybe once a month you're going to get a delivery. And basically, what you put them in, it looks like a pod-looking container, so it doesn't blow everywhere. So at each of the municipality, you put this pod down with a door, and then you put the styrofoam in there. When it's all filled up, you pick up the whole pod and you transport it to the city of Clifton. Now, you said employees. There are going to be 2 employees that are going to be running this machine. If those 2 employees on a Thursday are not running this machine, they're going to be doing something else, because these are recycling people. These employees work on the recycling division. So if you're not using them for here, I'm going to be putting them to other work. So it's not like I have to hire 2 more people just to run this program. In essence, all you're doing is you're plugging it in, you're paying the electric, right? And that's it. The rest of it is any revenue we get, it's strictly for the city of Clifton. We don't share the revenue. And the compression, so if you're looking at something that's 100%, right? When you melt it down, it's about 2% of its original volume. So yes, it takes a while to generate the weight, but when you melt this styrofoam, it really comes down to 2% of its original size. And that's really, but it's heavy, and then that's what you're selling. You're selling that sausage-looking extrusion that's going to be picked up by a hauler, and they're going to pay us for the tonnage.
So, Mr. DeFeo, my question to you is, and am I correct that when they do the styrofoam recycling, it's only for the hard, I'm going to call it the styrofoam that's in around TVs, and typically I know the research that I've done, I see other towns do not accept the styrofoam cups or the styrofoam containers for
Food containers. Yeah.
And also not the, what are they called, the peanuts that are in, you don't include those, right? So, am I correct with that?
You're correct, Councilor.
That's effectively correct. I'm assuming you're using a foam cycle system? I don't know, I mean, I'm kind of in the dark here, so.
Yes, it's the foam cycle system, Wayne.
All right, and I am familiar with that system, that's why that helps me a lot. The system does not, first of all, polystyrene food containers are effectively banned now anyway in New Jersey, so that should not be an issue. The largest user of foam cups was Dunkin' Donuts, and they have phased that out. So you shouldn't get a lot of that, nor correct is that acceptable. Polystyrene coolers, what goes around packaging, that sort of thing is the primary material. So to go to your point, that's correct. If someone is buying the machine for you, if I understood that correctly, you effectively are getting a free machine using existing labor. I have not done any analysis on this, and do bear in mind this is somewhat extemporaneous. From what I understand, you have a free machine and existing staff. Polystyrene recycling reduces the volume, and as Mr. Valano stated correctly, it's at least a 90-to-1 densification. It is something that, well, you remove a lot of weight from your streams, your waste stream. It does make the waste stream cleaner, and it makes the city and towns cleaner, because, as you know, polystyrene hits a packing truck, and the blade hits it, you end up with polystyrene all over. This could easily help eliminate that. The ingots, which is what they're called when they're densified, are very dense, and it gets quite heavy, but it does not take up any room. So Mr. Valano's description is quite accurate. You end up with effectively a shed, a little bin, a little holding place, and your staff can do it when they have time. It doesn't have to be done immediately. As far as the economics, I've not done them, but you really have, it sounds to me, it's costing you $1. Middletown put one in on their own, just to give you context of another town that's large, although they're larger geographically. Excuse me, they're probably comparable in population overall. They did that on their own, and they purchased the machine with the separate storage building, which you do not have to do because you have the recycling barns, as I understand it. Correct, Mr. Valano? Yeah, so you don't have to buy the separate standalones. And they have found it very successful. Now, I, again, haven't done a cost analysis private, but they seem very satisfied. They use 2 separate collection locations, and they've had very little problem. What they have something like a polystyrene system, it's less the tonnage than more the volume and the litter. So I mean, you're getting sounds to me from what I can hear and without doing any background. You're certainly not getting a bad deal if the county's paying for it, if I understand that correctly.
To this, we were, I shouldn't say we're not committed. We would enter, say, a one-year agreement. We try it out, see if it's worth the investment, because we do have to pay for the electric, and that's really the only cost that we would be added. Yeah, I'm assuming it's got to be a three-phase, 220. There you go. So.
Mayor, through you.
Sorry, Mr. Letourneau.
Oh, sorry.
Mayor, through the city manager. So a few things real quick. The recycling committee met, Councilman Gibson, myself, the crew. So right off the bat, the revenue, we're going to keep 100% of it. The county's paying for it. We're estimating about $18,000 a year profit from it. All the other towns that drop it off, for them, it's taking out of recycling, out of their waste stream, and also obviously helping save the planet. There's going to be a substation on the east side of town. We talked to Jason Van Winkle, DPW director, to put a east side substation so people on the east side can drop it off there. The recycling grant money is going to pay for the electrical upgrades. And going off the one question I didn't get to ask Mr. Van Winkle was, I hear a lot of times with the recycling center, we have a DPW employee down there, and people are dropping off recycling, and they're just, sitting in the car kind of thing. So one, obviously we want to be a user or customer-friendly town. Can we look at having that employee helping residents offload their recycling while they're there? Because it's a bad perception. I hear it from residents all the time. I see it online, that there's just someone sitting in the car the whole time while this is happening. And number two, Mr. Vaughn, on this, to cut down on the cost of being an extra employee, since we already have someone there, can that employee
Yes.
do this during the
Could
week
be one
when
of the
there's no
first.
customers there, no one dropping off recycling, no one to watch, so we don't have to have dedicated DPW employees? Because on Thursday, they can be doing tree stumps, they can be doing something else.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
And Councilman, I already had that discussion about the recycling people that are there, the part-timers. And if you notice, I've been there a few times on Saturday. Younger guys, very helpful. They didn't even park the car, and they're already by me to try to help me out. So I'll stress that, though, to make sure that they don't sit in the car, all day long, but rather help out the public, and pick up the litter or whatever. So.
And I'm sorry, just lastly, to one question, can we have, instead of dedicating someone on Thursdays, since we already have that employee there, that they could run that machine during the week,
Well,
so we don't have those extra operating costs?
Right. Well, the reason why we chose Thursday is because that's sort of our off day, and that's when we do other specialty pickups.
Okay.
So that's why it was, the people are available on a Thursday.
Councilwoman
Do we
Murphy.
need Mr. DeFeo to stay on, or can we
I'd like
release
to-
him?
Not
Councilwoman
for
has
me.
a question.
I don't need Mr.
I just have one more question for Mr.
Yeah,
DeFeo.
Councilwoman has-
Do you have a question for Mr. DeFeo?
She has one first.
No, well, she has one for
Okay.
DeFeo, so she can.
Just for,
Okay.
Wayne, one additional question. What's the useful life of a machine, of this type of machine? I don't know how old this machine is.
I don't know the answer to that. The one that's in Sussex County has been there for at least 8 years, and as far as I know, is still operating. I would like to make two corrections. One is, it can take food service foam if it's clean. So if the food debris is removed, it can take it. That's not a problem. It's just the food debris you don't want. So I just wanted to correct that.
Move anything that we feel is a contaminant. So we're going to make it clear in our public outreach that there's going to be no food containers and the peanuts and that sort of thing. So we'll put out a list of what is acceptable and what is not.
Any other questions for Wayne before he goes? Okay, Councilwoman Murphy.
Okay, two things. I don't want to contradict you, Councilman Latona, but I have been to the recycling center a million times. For some reason, I think it's a cool place, And those men are always helping, especially if they see somebody with a lot, or if they see an elderly person, not me, but if they see somebody, struggling, they always jump out, and so it's kind of impressive. I mean, I'm sure it's not all day long. And the other thing is, I actually called the county about why they were being so generous giving us this machine. I thought there was something a little funky about it. And they said the machine's been sitting in a closet for a long time because they don't have the space or anywhere to put it. And that was why they were so generously donating it to us for $1.
So, Mr. Valano, what do you need from us tonight? A motion to move
Well,
forward?
I would need the consensus of council. If you're in favor of this, we contact the county, we draw up an agreement. If you're not in favor, then we pass it up and somebody else gets it.
Okay, so, Yes.
Mayor, through you, I don't know if Wayne needs to still stay on. Could Wayne get off?
yeah, we're finished with them.
Okay, but then I also have some questions with Mr. Villano because Mr. Councilman Latona said a couple of things. So can Wayne get off? I don't have any more questions.
Does anyone have any more questions for Mr. DeFeo before we release him?
We're okay.
Wayne, thank you, as
Thank you,
always.
Thank you.
Wayne.
Thank you, thank you.
Contract, I was leaving with one fault. You're paying now what Waste Management did for your contract 5 years ago. This is a point of information.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Mayor, through you to Mr. Villano, two things that just came up. First, when Councilman Latona said something about now a substation on the east side.
Actually, slow down. We're not building anything. When we were discussing, it's almost an inconvenience for, say, the Bani folks that come up to City Hall, so we thought of a second location where we would have one of those containers. Say the DPW yard is ideal. So because they bring TVs and that sort of thing at the deep. So we were thinking of putting, if you're going to implement it, we will put a pod, a collection pod at another location in town, or multiple locations if you want. All you do is you ask that you get this box and you drop her anywhere you want to collect it. So we could do 2 or more multiple collections.
And how much do these pods cost?
Well, they come with the, I believe they come with the thing. I have to double check the, because what happens is you're buying a system, you're buying a machine, and then you have a box that you put the styrofoam to store it so you can ultimately feed the machine. We have the option of using a barn, so that makes it, we got a lot more room to operate in. Otherwise, in essence, the machine is basically the size of an ATM machine, and then you have this pod-looking box that you put the styrofoam in, and then when you're ready to feed the machine, you get the operators pull it out and they feed the machine. So what would happen is if you have multiple locations, we will collect it at those points, and then those bins will be transported because where we're going to do the extrusion will be here at City Hall.
Okay, so the cost, I'm a little confused. We're not buying this machine, we're in essence leasing it from the county for $1 a year?
No, we're
Correct.
getting
They're
it for
giving
free.
They're giving it to us, and it's customary to give $1 for a purchase or a donation, if you want to call
$1
it.
for the purchase,
Just for the
forever.
council's edification, the dollar is symbolic. in
Right, I
nature.
understand that, but they're giving it to us, but we're paying $1 for it.
Yes.
And we're not getting these container pods. We don't know how much these container pods cost.
Well, we don't need them. We don't need them because we have a barn. But other towns, the other towns, the way they're going to collect it, they're going to put it in these boxes. So they load up the box, they load the box on the truck, and they transport it to us. So these containers are, in essence, they're like a garbage. If those of you do construction, they kind of look like that with a top on it.
Okay, and my next question is, it says that the market value can vary from 28 cents per pound if delivered to the facility,
Right.
located approximately an hour drive from Clifton.
Right, so
What
I think
faci-
it's in Sayreville, the other. So there's predominantly 2 companies that buy the sausage, the extruded, the ingot, I believe it's called, the ingot. So
What is it called?
like an ingot, INGOT, I believe. In one case, we would have to, if we want to get the 28 cents per pound, we would have to transport it to Sayreville, which is about an hour and a half or so one way. So what we're saying is for 20 cents a pound, for 8 cents less, they could come from, I believe, Elmore Park or nearby, and they could pick it up. So you have an option. Either you bring it somewhere you get a little bit more, but if you get a little bit less, they come and pick it up.
All right, so Nick, you need us to vote on this right now, right? If we're going to do
sorry?
this, you need a vote from us
I
right now.
need some direction. If you want the machine,
Okay, so
fine. If
then
you
I'm
don't
gonna
want the
st-
machine,
I'll
that's
ask-
okay too.
I will move that we enter into the agreement with the county and take the machine.
Do I have a
And
second?
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Gibson?
I think we're thinking outside the box. I think it's a positive thing for us, and if at the end of the year it doesn't work, we can get it back to the county. I vote yes.
Councilman Kalojay?
I think the city should be taking a leadership role in the county in terms of being more green and environmentally friendly. Clearly, the revenue would help offset the cost, making the program cost neutral, so I'm in favor of it, yes.
Councilman Latona?
Everything being said, yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Everything they said, I say yes.
Councilwoman Pino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sedgwick?
I'm not so convinced that this is going to be a revenue stream. Again, the numbers are not here to show it. We have numbers all over the place. I'm going to vote no, and I will revisit it after a year to see if, in fact, I was right or wrong. But at this point, I'm voting no. Thank you.
Mayor Grabowski?
I'm going to vote yes, but Nick, if this doesn't work after a year or so, it's not written in snow.
We'll have to put it into the agreement that we'll give it a year's try, and then if it doesn't work out, we'll give it back.
All right.
And we don't get our dollar back then.
Yes.
Vote is 6
Yes.
yes, 1 no, motion carried.
Okay, so, let's get back to action item. A6 is authorization to approve committee liaisons for 2023.
Move it for discussion.
Second.
Discussion?
Thank you. Ms. Ferrigno, thank you for the email you sent with the clarification with respect to the committees that were created on the dais for different reasons, such as the Homeless Committee, the Census Committees, Cannabis, and the subcommittees of the committees. So with that clarification, and the question is through you, Mayor, to Mr. Villano, Ms.
Go
Ferrigno.
ahead.
These committees are not on our master list, correct? So when they are scheduled, I know in your email you say you do not schedule them. Mr. Villano, who would schedule all of these? For example, all the ones that Ms. Ferrigno just provided, the homeless, census, cannabis subcommittees, if they were to meet.
Okay, so there's really two sets of committees, right? Some of them are automatically scheduled, whatever week of that particular month they meet. There are other committees that typically originate from the dais. For instance, Police Committee. We don't always, every month, have a committee, but if the council wants, Fire, Police, Fire, Recycling is not and incidentally, most of the ones that are set with dates, they do have a secretary that takes minutes and attends the meeting too. So not every committee has a secretary. Just want to make that clear.
It was the purpose of a liaison to listen and report back to the council, that
Right.
secretaries.
So not to get too much in the weeds of this, because I am on the subcommittee of the committee, so, and I already spoke to the mayor, we're going to be working, myself and him are on that committee. So we will be bringing recommendations to council when the time comes. But my question really is, if any committees, or for example, the committees that already have scheduled meetings but need to meet outside of that scheduled meeting, who is scheduling those committees?
The council will instruct me, and either, typically it's my assistant, Leanna, sometimes Nancy, depends on but typically it's us. You tell me when you want to have a meeting, and I schedule it through Leanna.
So is it, because I would like to know when those committees are scheduled, so I can then follow up as to the outcome, what was discussed. So the
Right.
only way for me to know is to follow up, is to know when they're scheduled. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to get this information on a weekly basis so I can follow up, I can be able to follow up. So would it be better to, would Leanna be able to email that, or?
I think a better way of presenting this, right, will be, each committee has council members that attend the committee, is that correct?
That's correct.
Right? Every committee has a one or, rather, 2 or 3 council members.
plus, yeah,
I think we should make that uniform, that whoever sits on that committee, one of the 3 or one of the 2 should report back to council what was discussed at the committee. I gave the example, Councilman Natale used to sit on economic development, and every time we met every month, he would bring back the report of what we discussed. I think that should be done in the same fashion. So now, how do you know when the committee meets? Well, you're going to know when the committee meets when you tell me, hey, I want to schedule this committee meeting or that committee meeting.
Right, but that's not necessarily always effective, right? Because it's been 2 weeks since I asked you to please schedule the Civil Rights Committee, and I know you've had difficulty because some council members haven't been replying back. But if we go by that theory, technically, we should have already met, and I would be asking for a follow-up. I know that, obviously, because I'm on that committee. So I guess at this point, just because in the interest of time, for the next council meeting, I would like to make, or request to have this item to discuss how can I get this information, and what's the best way to do it before we get these recommendations. Because I would like to be informed as to the city business that is happening, since I'm not on those committees. So would we be able to get it for the next meeting as a discussion item?
And I'm sorry, what is the discussion, Councilwoman?
The discussion, because right now we're brainstorming, right? But
I'm sorry,
we're brainstorming right now, right? But I don't want to take up, because we have still more stuff to do. We took a lot of time on the recycling, so I don't want to take that time to brainstorm. But this is something I would like us to figure out.
So you want to discuss it further?
To discuss it further,
Okay,
right. So for the next meeting, can we please?
You want to table it for tonight, and then we'll add it as a
Well, it's
discussion item?
not, we're not tabling anything because it's just as a discussion. I would like this topic to discuss how can I get this information from which department, because I'm within our form of city government, I cannot start calling your employees.
I have an idea, rather than,
Or you can CC us if you
you know,
schedule the meeting.
as what, exactly, that's what I thought of as I'm sitting here thinking. So we have a schedule, the X committee, that's normally not on these committees, right? It's
Right.
one of the ones that doesn't meet regularly. What I could do, or what Leanna could do, when we're scheduling it and we sent out a notice, say, you know, the 3 of you, this is the date we're going to meet, we could also copy the rest of council and let you know that, hey, this committee's meeting, without.
That worked for me, that's
I
perfect.
think that would suffice. I think when they set up a committee, and we set up a lot of committees up here,
Yeah.
when it goes out, like I'll get a notice that we're having a committee, if we can copy all the council people, then to Councilman Pino's,
The
She would be
members
now
that are
knowingly-
sitting on they
Right.
will be directly copied, but the other folks that are not on the committee, they'll get a copy that the
Right.
meeting is being held, so you know that, hey, on such and such a date, that was done.
Excellent,
think that's-
perfect. Perfect, thank you.
Mayor.
Sorry,
Yes,
Councilwoman,
Councilwoman.
I'm not finished.
Sorry.
I still have questions. Thank you. To that point, what is the status of the Civil Rights Committee? It's been 2 weeks.
What the problem is really up there. When Leanna puts out notices, if you don't respond or you can't agree on a date, well, that puts us in a tough situation. So I guess the point is if you commit to a committee, you got to make sure that you could attend the meetings.
but here how it should be, Councilwoman, you would say, I'd like to have you call and say, I'd like to set up a committee meeting, and Leanne, finds out who's on the committee, and then we set a date.
Right, we did that already.
Yeah, but we do that right from here. You say, I want it,
I did that 2
yeah,
weeks
then-
ago, but we haven't, the problem is that we haven't,
Right.
she hasn't been successful in setting up the committee.
No,
So can we give it another shot, and hopefully we'll do, otherwise, I'll be in touch with you, Mayor, to figure out how can we, because whoever's on that committee is not responding, so maybe they're not interested in being in that committee.
Okay.
Because I know I already gave my whole calendar to Leanna, pretty much.
Well, I am one of the people that was on that committee, and the 2 dates that were given, I was unavailable.
That's fine.
okay, so we'll set up a committee meeting for that.
Thank you. So I was given the minutes to the meetings that were held, and I reviewed the minutes, and Mr. Villano, on the minutes for the individuals with disability, just a couple of questions. Where you have, there was a point here, unfinished business, Bed Bath & Beyond. Paula sent him an update on what she found. Okay, they can, Okay, here we go. Bed Bath & Beyond. Paula sent him an update on what she found, and he also went to look at it. Not enough room to accommodate wheelchairs in front of store. They can remove,
Mayor, point of order. I don't know what this has to do with A6, which we are talking
No,
about. and
you're
voting.
correct, Councilwoman.
no problem. I'll save this for my time.
Yeah, we're just voting, right now, we're just voting on the action item.
No worries,
To approve
no
the
problem.
committees, we could bring that up another time.
Okay, so that was it. Everything else I'll save for my time. Thank you.
Are there any objections to A6?
I need a motion. and
No,
a
move
second.
A6.
Second.
Okay, hearing no objections. A7, authorization to approve, apply for DCA grant.
Move it, please.
Second.
Hearing no objections. A8, authorization to approve reappointed members to Traffic Safety Council.
Move it, please.
Second.
Approved. A9, authorization to approve renewal of billiard license.
Move it.
Second.
So moved. A10.
Can we move all of those at the same time? It's
You
A9
want
through
A10
A12.
till what, A12?
A12.
8, 10, 11.
Second that. We're moving 8 through 12.
8 to 12. Okay, hearing no objections. A13, authorization to approve adding title of building subcode official. Yes.
Would you like some explanation on this
Yes.
particular?
Move for
All right.
discussion.
Move it.
Second with
Go ahead.
question.
So what some of these titles are, this one in specific, is that we don't have a title for a building subcode official. So under the way the building department is set up, you have the construction official, you have his assistant construction official, and then you have the different plumbing, electrical, and building. What those subcode officials do, they do two functions. One is they review the plans, the permits that they come in, and they actually, do the approval, and they also go out and do inspections. So what's happened up to now is that we have a plumbing subcode, we have an electric subcode, but we don't have a building subcode. And the reason we don't have that title is in the past, presently, the assistant subcode official, in essence, is doing two jobs. He's doing the assistant and he's doing the building because he has that license. Prior to that, the former construction official also had the license. So we were lucky enough back then that the employee will hold two titles. He will hold the construction official or assistant construction official, and then they would do the building subcode. So it's a civil service title, but it doesn't exist in our ordinance, and that's why we're asking you to create this.
Mayor.
Incidentally, our assistant subcode official is retiring as of next month, hence the need to have somebody to take over this function.
Councilman Gibson?
So ultimately, what we're doing is we're putting in the proper title for the proper person. Not our person, but the proper
You're
title
creating
for
a
that
title,
position.
so I could find somebody to fall
Right.
into that, because up to now, you had one person sharing two titles. They were doing double the work.
Go ahead. Anyone else?
I have
Mayor.
a question.
Mr.
Mayor, through
Sorry,
City Manager.
Councilman Tolton.
So I have a couple questions on this. So you did say it's a civil service position. So does it go out to test? Is this a promotion position for a City Hall employee, or how
I
does that
believe,
work?
I have to double check, because some of them are non-competitive and some are competitive. So it's depending on the, what civil service tells you, whether it's, you need to have an exam, or you could just, there are certain positions that if you have a certification, you could get, you don't have to go out and test. You could pretty much hire for that specific job. There are other ones that you have to go through a testing process in order to fill that position.
Right, so we don't know then if this is a civil service exam test, or is this like a promotion from an internal employee?
Okay.
And then I have one more question.
It doesn't look like, because on the bottom of the spec that's included with you notice the specification, it usually tells you, like, if it's N is non-competitive, and then if, the other ones means testing. This one doesn't have anything at all, which is, I never seen this before, so I don't know what this means.
Right, and so one more question. I have a question in general on all these positions. When I see a salary range, right here, it says 47 to 76. It's about a $30,000 range. Now, I know in, say, police or fire or like that, it goes by years of service, your position goes by your range. So when I see any of these ranges in here that say, recommend a salary range of 47 to 76, is that arbitrary, or does that come into, you start off at 47 and over X amount of years, you work your way up to 76? Or does that mean arbitrarily you can hire someone at 76 tomorrow and hire someone else 6 months from now for the same job at 47?
Okay, so civil service only provides you the title. They don't tell you the salary. That's something that's set by ordinance by the mayor and council. So, sure.
I could probably fill the second part. That would be in the IBEW contract. It would set depending on the start date, current employees have 7 steps between the min and max, which is basically where they're brought in the top step.
Okay, so that's basically saying this person will be hired at 47,000 and through the 7-year steps?
No, it gives me the flexibility
be
to
brought in
where,
based
depending
on
on experience.
Stereo.
So in
it's-
essence.
It's arbitrarily that
Yeah.
this person,
Well,
this position can be filled at 76,000 on day
Well,
one?
Not necessarily. So what happens, you're setting a range, 40 to 70, right? Now, we're finding that to try to find a $40,000 a year building some code doesn't exist, not in New Jersey. So it's a number that gives me a range that I can start the person at, depending on the experience. Typically, you start them somewhere in the middle, depending on, I have flexibility of where I can start the person, depending on the experience and what they bring to qualification-wise. And then you have 7 years to get to the top. So you have 7 steps along the way from where I start them to the top step to, that's what they're actually going to advance to 7 years from now.
Okay, so that answers that. So the only thing that's arbitrary is the starting number. Once it's there, it goes through the contract for X amount of steps to get to that top number.
We set a salary, and then we set steps as we make the offer.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes,
I have a question. Do all these title changes include raises?
Not all of them. I believe the rec one is more of a lateral change. You have,
My problem is, we haven't even had a budget meeting for this year yet, and we have been told that we have a considerably big deficit that we have to work around.
okay, well,
So-
Councilwoman, we've been using that excuse for a while, right? We used it before the election, well, let's wait to see what happens, and now it's after the election, and now we're saying, well, let's wait for the budget to be struck.
Well, with all due
What happens in
respect,
and you're familiar with the civil service process, is some of these folks are working out a title. For instance, when this one we're talking about, next month, we're not going to have a person that's going to be doing this. So if you don't create this title, this building subcode official, we're not going to review any plans for the building department.
okay, so what happens
So-
if we make these promotions?
So what I'm saying is, so look, don't be concerned about this impacting the budget. Okay, we know pretty much where the budget's at as far as the salaries. These few positions are not going to further compound or make the budget worse. They're minimal what you're asking. Like most of them are a step up. Most of them are like a few $1,000s that you're moving. So they keep pushing this down the road. Well, what's going to happen is we're not going to be able to hire people to fill these positions. Some of them are waiting to be promoted. Some of them are calling for a desk audit and saying, hey, I'm working outside of my title. I want a desk audit. Now, what do I do if I don't have a title to move them in?
Okay, so what happens if we do promote these people, and I'm all for promotions, I'm probably the biggest proponent of promotions up here, but what happens if we make these promotions and then we have to lay off 25 people?
Well, I don't think we're going to be looking at layoffs. I think that's the last resort. And more importantly, some of these, I guess what I'm saying is some of these are, you need the position, you need the title. You don't have a building subcode official, right? So you wait till after the thing is struck. What is that? You're still going to have to provide a title to, put somebody in it. So I guess what I'm saying is don't fixate on, well, the budget hasn't struck. These are shekels in the overall scheme of what the budget is. The few dollars that you're talking here are not going to balance your budget or further, put us in a bad situation. So let's look at doing the titles, not so much wait till after the budget, because we're in so assuming that you wait after the budget, right? So how are you going to fund these after the budget is done? You know what I'm saying? Like this particular one, you need this job, you need this title because you don't have it on our books. So if you wait till after the budget, how do I anticipate that you're going to, do I leave this number out? You know what I'm trying to say? So what you're saying is, well, we shouldn't decide until we decide on the budget. What I'm saying is don't hold that as an excuse. Make the titles because we need to hire people to go into these titles, some of them. The other ones, the promotions, those could be, in fact, I was going to ask you to table one of the other ones.
I was going to ask you, Nick, are all of these necessary?
No, I was actually going to
Or is
ask
there some
you-
that we could table?
Well, for instance, the recreation one, that doesn't come with any money. That's just
That's what I meant.
You have two people
Waste
that are
time.
working with different varied experience, and they're in the same title. So all we're saying is just make another title and put them in respect. But really, the one that it's, I would say. Correct. Yeah, it's
Mayor,
even better,
if I may, one thing that I think we neglected to mention with respect to the building department title. The building department is funded out of its own fees, so this is a little bit unique. They collect the fees, they have to spend the fees that they collect, and this one I think has some urgency because the person's retiring at the end of the month, and they need this. The person's retiring at the end of the month, and they need this spot filled. So this one really shouldn't be an issue because the building department pays for its own people through their own fees that they collect.
Which ones can we
May-
table?
I think the one that I would say you should take action on is A13.
Okay.
A14, this deals with an accounting clerk in the finance department. We need this title because,
Okay.
again, this person is working out a title. And
Okay.
quite honest, we're having some shortfalls up there. We don't have enough people right now. So look, with the budget and everything else, now is the busiest time of year. So I think this person will be promoted directly into
How about
this.
15?
And it's a non-competitive, so it doesn't require
Okay.
testing.
15?
Office supervisor, I would say to table this. The only reason I asked you to table is because this person has not asked for a desk audit, right? So what we're saying is before you ask for desk audit, let's create a title so you can move in there. So with that one, we have time. And we
Okay.
also have some other options that we could promote this person into. So I would say A15, we could table.
16?
16, again, this is a recreation. This is really clear as you have two people with varied experience. One has higher education, more experience, but they're both in the same title.
Okay.
So all we're saying is just make a distinction between the two.
How about 17?
17 is, this is the zoning officer. So
Can we talk about that separately? Because I have a lot of questions on it. We're going like all over.
I just want to see which ones he
Yeah.
would like us to table.
I would say the assistant zoning officers, that's a critical one, because, well, our zoning officer retired last year.
Right, we
We
need-
promoted a new zoning officer, and this person has been assisting the zoning officer during this. So the two of them basically took this position on. We have a part-time zoning officer position, but we don't have a full-time. And all we're saying is create one, so this person could be moved into that, because if she calls for a desk audit, they're going to say, well, you got to make an assistant zoning officer position. We have it as part-time, we don't have it as full-time.
Mayor.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get this straight. Mr. Valano, through you, Mayor, to Mr. Valano, which ones do you want us to table?
To table, I would say A15, and technically, I would say A18 could wait. We could, that's making
So you want
another
a table
position.
for 15 and 18?
I would say 15 and 18, and if you could authorize the rest, that would be a big help for us.
Need a motion.
Wait,
I make that
wait,
Table
before,
15 and 18.
just a motion to table,
Those two.
just a motion to table.
I'll make a motion to table the ones that Mr. Valano
Second.
has recommended.
Okay, so now you need a motion to pass them all unless...
No,
Wait,
wait.
do we have a second on
No,
the
you need a
table,
second.
please?
Can we talk about, we were on the building, Mayor, through you. I had some questions, and I understand that the building is funded by their fees. I understand that part. So you're saying the person that signs off when I put a permit in, right? If I'm building something, it's typically, you have to put in your tech sheets for your building, your plumbing, your electrical.
Yeah, you
So
fill
the
out,
person-
you fill out the
yes,
folder
your
and, yeah,
tech
and you put the
sheets,
plans.
Your tech sheets.
Right.
And your plans. So the person that approves the tech sheets, the plans, is retiring.
Correct.
What is that salary of that person now?
Well, that salary, his main salary is the assistant construction official. But
Bless you.
there's no title for building subcode, so he's doing the building subcode for free.
Okay, so,
You're paying him for the assistant building official, but you're not paying him extra for the doing
okay,
the
so
building
if you're
subcode.
hiring, you're saying this person is retiring next
Yes.
month?
Yeah.
So you have to go out, there's no one to be promoted for this?
Actually, we found someone, but
Wait, internally or externally?
someone that works part-time for us presently, there's one of the inspector that has that license, and we could actually move him in. Let's put it this way, we're lucky to get this person.
Okay, so the assistant, whatever the title is, of the person that's retiring?
Yes.
Is this going to be an increase in what that person was and this new title?
This is a brand-new title. This is not this title doesn't exist, so you're creating a new title, and you got to fill in the assistant sub.
Oh, so you want to fill that position and create another position for this?
Well, I have to fill that position because he's retiring. So, but that person who holds this license, he's going to take that license with him, so I'm left without a person doing the job.
So in essence, it's a new position?
Yes.
It's a new position because you're hiring another body, right? It's
Well, that's
not-
what I said from
Yeah,
initial.
okay.
Right now, you're getting it for free because the person has both licenses. But going forward, when he's retiring, I don't have that license in the building department anymore. But I found somebody who's willing to take the job for a fairly reasonable amount of money. This person, let's put it to you, very reasonable amount of money.
But they won't do the second part of it if we've been doing it?
No. We're gonna replace the assistant construction official. The person that's retired, we're gonna fill in opposition with another assistant. And in addition to that, we have to create a title so we have somebody that has this certificate in-house that's gonna move into this title.
Okay,
If we go much longer,
motion to move them?
the maximum limit of this is gonna have to go up because we can't get anybody for these salaries.
I need a motion to, I'm saying we need a motion to move the authorizations.
Motion to move.
13, 14, 16, and 17.
Wait, before we move that, can we have a discussion on 17? This is a new position, correct? It's a full-time salary. Right now, we have a
Correct.
part-time.
Correct.
All right. I know we've had this part-time position when the previous zoning officer was here, too?
As a part-time, yes. We had this position for a part-timer
Back when,
when the other zoning officer was here.
okay. So we want to take that part-time salary, which was roughly how much, and now make it full-time?
I think we're paying the person $25 an hour, if I remember. So 25, 20 hours a week, I believe we're paying, 20.
So this person would go to salary?
This person will go to salary, but she has another title, which is like more of a keyboarding kind of a thing. She's actually doing the work of, those folks of you that come and see the zoning and the planning board meetings, that person attends the meeting. The woman that comes to the meeting, that sits here, where I'm sitting, is the person that we want to advance, because she's working in that title. She's presently working in that title, but she's not getting compensated for the money. So in essence, she's a step below where she should be. If you create the title, then we can move her into the lower part of the new title.
And I don't want to step on toes and go above and beyond, but my question, since you mentioned that, is why does this person attend the meetings and not the zoning officer?
That's the agreement that we made, because when I interviewed them both, that person was attending the meetings with Dan, the prior subcode zoning officer. So in essence, we trained her for this position, but she needs to be moved into the title.
And are there any licenses required or anything for this position?
I believe, you know what? I don't think the zoning officer requires a certification.
It doesn't?
Just a driver's license.
Okay, I have a motion on the, move those. Do I have second?
Second.
Hearing any objection, we're,
Roll call.
All right, this is on A
13, 14,
16,
and
17.
17. Right. And we have motion in a second. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Gibson.
Yes.
Councilman Kalojay. Yes. Councilman Latona.
Yes to the group with a question. Are we going to do a separate motion to table 15 and 18 till next?
We did that already.
Yeah.
Did that already?
Yeah, we
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pino.
Yes to the group.
Councilman Sedricula.
I'm going to vote no because there's some that I like and some that I don't.
Mayor Grabowski.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, we already concluded our discussion item. Just really quickly, is there any council mail other than the journal?
Yes. Council mail?
Yes.
We'll start out with CM3. I'd make a motion to make a donation for $160 from the council.
Second.
I'm sorry, how much was the amount?
You missed A19.
The ad journal, CM3.
A19 is a late item.
How much was the ad journal? How much are we taking for the ad journal?
I don't know.
160.
160.
160?
But Mayor, through you to the city
Yes.
manager on that item, what is the status, Mr. Valano? I've asked numerous times at this point for a copy when we do these ad journals of what we're actually putting out there as council.
Yep.
What's
We
the
have-
status of that?
We haven't done any in a while.
We,
We haven't approved it.
no, the last time I asked you, we
Yeah.
had just approved one, and I said, okay, moving forward.
Yeah, we're going to give you a copy of the ad journal, assuming that they have a flyer or whatever they have. Sometimes they just have a flyer, other times they have an actual ad journal where you have a booklet and you buy a half a page or a page.
Right, that's what I want to see.
Yes, we haven't had one since you've asked me to provide you that backup.
Well, all right, I'll give you a call tomorrow, because we have, and I have
Oh.
it written down, so that's why I'm still not
So if
getting
you could
this.
give me the names of the ones that you have, I'll check to see whether there was actually an ad journal or a flyer, because not all of them have an ad journal.
So we'll discuss this in the break.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we have approximately
Okay, we
2
need a
minutes. Any
motion.
other,
We need a motion and a second on A19.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
hearing no objections.
Thank you.
Okay, 2 minutes. Any other council mail? If not,
Just
Yes.
number 5, the Blue Acres program, thank you very much for that. Basically, the state hires an appraiser, and then the party that's involved with the Blue Acres has the ability to appeal that appraisal and hire their own appraisal. So unlike with Green Acres, where they get 3 appraisals, that's how the program works. So have you had?
Well, you may get 3 appraisals. So if you notice, so the Blue Acres people do an appraisal. Now they give the property owner an
Right.
option to get their own. Now, if the 2 are not in agreement or whatever, then it is a third appraisal, a neutral one that they will both, get to, to do the third.
Have you had any more interest in the Blue Acres program from the letter that you sent out
No,
to
not
the
since the
other?
4 that we received at the last time.
Thank you.
Sticking with the Council Mail 5, so, and maybe someone can explain it a little better for me, because it appears that what they actually do is an assessment pre-storm to create a value, but then they will deduct any money that they previously paid out.
Clearly, they don't want you to take money both from, multiple sources. So what happens is, and it's pretty typical whenever you're dealing with the feds or whatever, is that they assess the property pre-storm, so you get the highest value. Any cost, any money you receive during the fix-up or whatever you did, that gets discounted from the appraisal. Because they're not going to give you the full price plus the cost that somebody already paid you, or grant, or whatever money you received to fix up your house, that gets discounted.
Yeah, no, and that's how I interpreted it too, Mr. Villano, and so here winds up being my concern. I bought a house for $600,000. It got flooded, and so the insurance company gave me $60,000 to fix it, so that I could still live in this house.
Right.
And now, when they go to pay me out, it's $600,000 minus the 60. So they're only going to give me $540.
Correct.
So they're not actually giving me the purchase price of my house, because I would have had to live in a tent in the backyard in order to get the full value.
Yeah. They look at it as you receive money during the process, so we discount that money out of what your final cost is.
Okay, we're going to have to go into the...
Council Mail number 6, just, there's a letter of resignation from the Disabilities Committee, so I'm sure that you'll be on the website for anyone looking to be part of the Disabilities Committee.
Well, we're going to have to come back for the confidential item after the... Yeah, it'll be... We can't do it now anyhow, unfortunately. Okay. Ready, Nance? Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the annual notice of regularly scheduled meetings of the Municipal Council for the year 2023, which was published as a legal advertisement in the Herald News and the Record on December 12, 2022. Further notice of this meeting was given on Friday prior to the meeting by posting said notice on the bulletin board at City Hall and on the City of Clifton's website, which notice stated that formal action may or may not be taken on the matters to come before this Municipal Council. Roll call.
Councilman Gibson.
Present.
Councilman Kalojay.
Present.
Councilman Latona.
Here.
Councilwoman Murphy.
Here.
Councilwoman Pino.
Here.
Councilwoman Sedgwick.
Here.
Mayor Grabowski.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Invocation will be given by our city clerk, Pastor Daisy is not here, followed by the pledge allegiance of the flag.
Lord, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of community. Also give us guidance to satisfy the needs of the people of the city of Clifton. We ask this in the name of our Lord. Amen.
I need approval of the minutes, please.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Petitions and communications.
Various communications submitted by the city manager. Meeting minutes of the Committee for Individuals with Disabilities of November 21st, the Board of Adjustment of January 4th, and the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board of December 14th. And this concludes communications, Mayor.
Okay, second reading ordinances.
7789, an ordinance to amend, revise, and supplement Chapter 439 of the Code of the City of Clifton, entitled Vehicles and Traffic, more particularly Section 439-37 thereof, entitled Handicap Parking on Streets, deletes one handicap space.
A hearing will be held on this ordinance. Anyone wish to be heard?
Mayor, if no one wishes to be heard, I move the public portion be closed.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilman Gibson? Councilman Kalojay?
Yes.
Councilman Latona?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sedgwick?
Yes.
Mayor Grabowski?
Yes.
Motion carried. 7790, an ordinance to amend, revise, and supplement Chapter 439 of the Code of the City of Clifton, entitled Vehicles and Traffic, more particularly Section 439-38 thereof, entitled Handicap Parking on Streets for Private Residences, deletes 3 restricted handicap spaces.
A public hearing will be held on this ordinance. Does anybody wish to be heard?
Mayor, if no one wishes to be heard, I move the public portion be closed and adopted upon final approval.
Roll call.
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Kalojay?
Yes.
Councilman Latona?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sedgwick?
Yes.
Mayor Grabowski?
Yes.
Motion carried. 779123, an ordinance to amend, revise, and supplement Chapter 439 of the Code of the City of Clifton entitled Vehicles and Traffic, more particularly Section 439-38 thereof, entitled Handicap Parking on Streets for Private Residences, adds 3 restricted handicap spaces.
A public hearing will now be held on this ordinance. Does anyone wish to be heard?
Mayor, if no one should be heard, I move the public portion be closed and this ordinance adopted on a final vote.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Kalojay?
Yes.
Councilman Latona?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sedgwick?
Yes.
Mayor Grabowski?
Yes.
Motion carried. 7792, an ordinance to amend, revise, and supplement Chapter 439 of the Code of the City of Clifton entitled Vehicles and Traffic, more particularly Section 439-38 thereof, entitled Handicap Parking on Streets for Private Residences, amends permit numbers.
A public hearing will be held on this ordinance. Does anyone wish to be heard?
Mayor, if no one wishes to be heard, I move the public portion be closed and adopted upon final approval.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Kalojay? Yes. Councilman Latona?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sedgwick?
Yes.
Mayor Grabowski?
Yes.
Motion carried.
These ordinances will be published in accordance with the law.
No,
Ordinance, first reading.
First reading ordinance 7793, an ordinance to amend, revise, and supplement Chapter 99 of the Code of the City of Clifton entitled Salaries and Compensation, more particularly Article 6 thereof, entitled Confidential Officials and Employees, Section 99-34, entitled Minimum Maximum Salaries Fixed, amends compensation for 2023, Section 99-37, entitled Hospitalization and Insurance, amends health insurance plans for retirees, and Section 99-42, entitled Holidays, adds Juneteenth.
Move to introduce the ordinance.
Second.
Question. I got a question on the ordinance. So I know this came up last week, so I just have a question reading the changes. I understand the adding the Juneteenth as a holiday for all employees, Mr. Volano, but after I read through this change today, if you can clarify for me, it says, just to clarify, after 10 years of service as a confidential, eligible for lifetime medical? Because I know with city employees, it's 25 or 30 years.
15. 15 years. After 15 years of being with the city, it would entitle, well, depending on when you retire, right?
So I just walked in on the question, but I think it's related to the number of years of service. So in order to qualify for medical benefits in retirement, you need either 25 years of total PERS service. The city then sets its own requirement that at least 10 of those years, in other words, your last 10 years would have to be with the city of Clifton. So that accounts for a person can't come over from another municipality with 22 years of service there and have 3 years of service here, and they get the medical benefits. So we set a minimum term of 10 years. Toward that, 25 has to be with Clifton.
So if 10 of those 25 years are with Clifton, that then entitles the employee to lifetime medical as Part B?
If they have a total of 25 years of overall service.
So, and one more question, that's for all employees? Because I thought for the other unions, you have to have 25 years with Clifton to
No.
get the benefit.
No, it's actually set by state statutes. You need 25 years of PERS or PFRS, whatever the case may be. Also, there's another exception where if you have a certain age, if you have 15 years of PERS service at age 62, that's another exception to the statute that would enable the benefits. So in addition, so for example, you still need the 10 years of Clifton. So let's say you came over from another municipality and you got your 15 years at age 62, 10 of those 15 years would have to be continuously with the city of Clifton, or you wouldn't qualify for health benefits with Clifton.
Okay, so again, so lastly, just police, fire, IBEW, they can come here 15 years into their career, just do 10 years in Clifton, and they would get the same benefit at retirement?
Yes,
correct?
and the reason we did that was to avoid the situation of someone coming over just for a short period of time.
Okay, I just want to make sure everyone's fair and equally treated. Thank you.
Mayor? Yes. I also have a question. I'm looking at this, that's for you to the city manager. I'm looking at this list, there's approximately 40 people on this list. Is it all 40, or is it just a top step?
Only about 12 or 13, about a dozen are eligible for the raise. The other ones are on top step.
If you're at top step or you had a subsequent particular raise, you don't qualify for it. So you have to be at top step and not in an agreement where the council had given the person a separate raise.
Thank you.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Councilman Gibson?
No.
Councilman Kaloje?
Yes.
Councilman Latona?
So, last night I had sort of a sleepless night trying to figure this out, because last year we gave confidential department heads pay raises that, on high salaries that were way out of whack. So now we have some open positions that's also part of this, of these changes for your average everyday city employees that are holdovers from last year. So for that reason, I'm going to vote yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sedgwick?
Until I see the budget, I'm going to abstain from this vote. There's a second reading, and we will have our budget meeting before that.
Mayor Grabowski? We have 5 yes, 1 no, 1 abstention. Motion carries. This concludes ordinances, Mayor.
This ordinance will be published in accordance with the law. Mr. Valano, do you have anything tonight?
Yes. So I met. Can't get any closer. This past week I met with the executive director of the Passaic Valley Water, and some of his staff, including my staff. The goal is that we, similar to what council had asked, every quarter, we've been doing this. Quite honestly, I communicate practically on a daily basis with Passaic Valley Water due to the breaks, different things that come up throughout the day. But just to kind of recap what we did, we are going to meet once every quarter. Now, we also mentioned that at the last meeting, it was mentioned, well, are they going to come to the council meeting? And I suggested to the executive director, at least they attend the first quarter meeting. But since Councilman Kaloje gives us a monthly update of what they discuss, because my understanding, Councilman, just want at your meetings, they'll go over all the different jobs and all the different things that are, and so if we can rely on you to continue to keep us updated, then we could cut down as the number of times Mr. Mueller will have to come, the executive director of the Passaic Valley would have to come to. Again, I talk to him regularly. Our communication has greatly improved from what it was 2 years ago or so. And I suggested at least let's have a meeting so he could come to the council, you could present them any questions, but to bring him here every quarter really doesn't serve a purpose, because we'll keep you updated not only on a monthly basis, but I get updated daily, so I could, if you have any questions, I could provide you with that information. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to have the privilege of the floor for anyone out there that wishes to be heard. I'd just like to caution, I don't want to read the whole statement, but, try to be civil, try to keep your remarks, try not refrain from derogatory remarks saying, Henry, you can't play music anymore. We were cautioned by YouTube. Something about rights, music rights, so, sorry. Yeah, well,
We do, but we can't play music
yeah,
as
they
part of the
cautioned
thing.
us. Although we like the interlude, it's just, unless you want to sing it by yourself, then it's okay, but we can't really. But it was fun. Does anybody wish to be heard? When you come up to the podium, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Trini Mestre, Valley Road, Clifton. First of all, I'd like to congratulate each and every one of you. This has been a very civil, very nice meeting, and I hope that from now on, the citizens need to come here and listen to each one of the district representatives, what is it that you are doing for the city, because it is important. There should be engagement between taxpayers and the people that suffer the brunt of everything that happens in the city when the budget goes up or goes down, or people get fired or whatever, because these are very difficult times. I am a community advocate, and I talk to people daily, and my tears roll down when I see the suffering that many of these people have to go through because they either fire or they don't get enough money, and the taxes go up and up and up. So it's good to see the representatives advocating for the people. And like I said at one time, I believe there is about 90,000 residents, whatever you want to call them, in Clifton. They all deserve, not only the ones that live in penthouses and million-dollar homes, but the ones that live in 2 mini bedrooms apartments, rent $2,500. That is immoral and insane. I got people homeless right now because they cannot pay those rents. Anyway, that's that part. The other part is Valley Road has become a cause of this tension here. They have broken that avenue 4 times. Every 2-3 weeks, they make these same holes, same places. Today, I asked the supervisor of the gas and electric, excuse me, what is going on? Why do they continuously make these big holes, close the venue, cause all kinds of problems for the business and the people, and now you're doing the same thing? He goes, well, my question to you, or my advice, we would like the commissioners to engage county, because I understand Valley Road is a county building, a county straight, but it bothers the people who live there, the homeowners and the businesses. So we would like to know what the left hand is doing and the right hand is doing too. I don't think that because they are just the county, they can come and break whenever they feel like it and cause this commotion. So my, whatever it is, please be more proactive with the county and the county roads in Clifton, because the people is suffering. Today I heard 2 big complaints and I said, oh my God. So thank you for your service. Thank you for taking care of business from now on, and God bless everybody.
Joseph Ciano, 102 Trenton Avenue. First, congratulations to our new mayor and the city council. I am hopeful and optimistic to a great 4 years. Just remember, put aside the differences, work as one unit to do what is best for our city. I want to bring up something that has really bothered me, and I take this right from a post from one of the many Clifton groups out there. This is from an undisclosed name, and this is a quote. This is my first time posting on the group, but I want to present an issue that Clifton High School is having with the fights. On the way home, my son and his friend have been attacked by a crowd of students, or as they called themselves, a gang. My son had a broken nose, and the other child's leg was broken. The problem is, we can't tell the school because the accident happened outside the school. My son is not accepting the idea and wants to leave the school as a result of the accident. End of the quote. I think this bothers me. I think our first priority is keeping the kids safe. I understand it's hard to be able to control or monitor the students as they are leaving, but this kind of thing happens all the time. One instance I can remember, there were 3 separate fights on Colfax Avenue. 3. Obviously, this had the kids running in the streets to watch the fight as they were dodging traffic. I just hope something could be done to keep the kids and those driving at this time safe. This is an ongoing problem. I work right across the street from the high school. It happens every day. It gets out of control, and at times I have to be out of my office making sure the kids are not getting hit by cars. Last, I want to speak about the warming center on Main Avenue. The homeless absolutely need our help, and there is no doubt about that. I'm actually working with Kim with the Power of One, collecting blankets for those in need. But I'm also heavily involved with the businesses on Main Avenue, and they have seen an uprising of homeless coming into the business, asking the staff and customers for money or food, which typically isn't a problem. Unfortunately, sometimes they're not being very nice about it, and certain stores are actually now locking the doors until a customer knocks on it out of their own safety. This is just something I would like watched because nobody should be afraid to be at work. This was brought to my attention after the last meeting, so I wanted to bring it to yours, being that it really has become a big problem for these businesses. Thank you for taking the time to listen.
Good evening, Gary Perino, Clifton. First of all, congratulations to all the newly appointed council. I hope that we'll make some positive steps in the right direction over the next 4 years. And just from the banter that I've just seen in the last 2 meetings, it looks like it's going to be a good session. I have a few things tonight. First of all, signs. I don't understand why we don't have a ordinance on the books for political campaign signs. 72 hours after the election is finished, signs should be picked up and taken. We shouldn't see them months in advance. I know some of you drove around, some of the candidates have driven around and picked up their own signs, but there should be no reason. It looks like downtown Patterson. Today, just riding around the city of Clifton, on telephone poles, there's a handmade stenciled sign about roofs. Call this number. Again, I don't understand why these signs are allowed, and also why this person that's putting up these signs isn't fined. It's an eyesore. Second question, or issue. There should be a moratorium on building over two-family houses over the size of two-family homes in Clifton. I don't understand why this. They're looking across the street to put 24 apartments in a 3-story facility. That's crazy. We are overbuilt, and we need to do something about it, and we need to do something immediately about it. The zoning and the planning board. We have an ordinance that says a 9-by-19 parking space is required. What the games that these attorneys play is, oh, well, we could go 18 or 17, and we can fit more cars in. More cars mean more people, more pollution, more problems. You have to, as our governing body, you have to tell the zoning board and the planning board, no, we're not making any kind of concessions on this. This is a problem in the city, and we should have a moratorium on the building till we get our heads screwed on together and have a master plan. Transparency. I can see Councilman Latona and Councilman Gibson, you're in the fire department and the police department. You shouldn't be able to vote on your pension, but you should be able to vote on anything else, whether it's buying bullets or uniforms or whatever. You should not be restricted from that. I can see if it affects your pension and your livelihood, yes. But did you know that we had 2 attorneys in the last election running for council? Now, these people appear before the zoning board and the planning board, and these people, were they going to be allowed to vote on the master plan? Were they allowed to, if somebody comes up with a problem for real estate, this would affect their livelihood presently and in the future. That should have been said to everyone before the election. I assume that would happen. There was another major accident at the intersection of Mount Prospect and Orwood Road within the last 2 weeks. On the Traffic Safety Council, we hear, how many fatalities were there? How many accidents were there? 1 accident is enough. Why we aren't doing anything to control this situation is beyond my control. And what I'd like to do is I would like to challenge each and every one of you, including Mr. Milano, don't hide over there, I see you there, my friend. Come up with 1 idea each meeting. Councilman Kaloje, with the sidewalks and the trees that you mentioned the last meeting, outstanding. Councilman Latona, you mentioned about the sewer charges, and everyone up here has come up with the extrusion for the styrofoam. If everybody, we have 8 people here, if everybody came up with 1 idea, even if you only accepted one per meeting, that's moving forward. And I would like, if you come up with these ideas, to follow up. It doesn't fall into that black hole and, yeah, we're working on it. It should be reported. Thank you.
Good evening, Samantha Bassford, Mountain View Drive. I was not planning on coming here tonight because I wanted to give myself the night off and just watch at home, but I'm wearing my Crocs, so you can see I just jumped out of the house. First, I want to know what is up with the metal detectors. Is there a threat? Is there something happening? There are people who may not have seen disabilities, and to come to an establishment where you don't know that there's going to be something that could set your leg off, and then you have to, explain your disability to someone is kind of not great. So I'm curious about that. I came down here because it was something that Mr. Latona said about, he was expressing feedback that he heard. And so I'm going to contradict a contradiction that was his contradiction. A couple of meetings ago, I was up here talking about the recycling center. And there's other people, as you know, there are several of you very active on Facebook, we see you comment, who also are saying about the recycling center maybe not being as proactive in how we spend our fiscal money, of having someone sit in a car where there's a mission, because the whole point of recycling is to make the world greener and a place better. And I don't think it's anyone's job to have to get up and lug my stuff from my car. I made the mess. I'm trying to help the family out, getting everything out of the house so we don't have to wait. But that is not everyone's experience. And why I bring this example up is because as council people, you are in a position of power and you have influence. And though you may not sign someone's check, you may not terminate them, but there is influential power that you have. So people are gonna jump up and ask you, how can I clean your shoes and drop off your recycling? So why I say this is because for me and for other people who are like-minded like me, why is that when there are individuals who have the same theme of feedback kind of just brushed off of, well, that's not my experience, so this must not be true, or this is not happening. And why I say this now is because you are a new council coming together, although some of you have shared experience in the past, but these are the things that upset people in Clifton, and why they don't come to sit here, and why they go on Facebook, because that's their only safe place for give feedback. And there's a lot of people who care. You look, I'm 33 years old. I don't want to spend my Tuesday night at a city council meeting. I want to do other things, but I'm invested and I care to come give this feedback. So that way there are other people who I know for a fact feel the same way, that I'm just bringing up one little tiny thing that could make an improvement or make something better. And it's, oh no, the city of Clifton is great. And this is not just this person's example, this has come out of multiple people. People are trying to give improvements. Hear what they're saying. Take their constructive criticism, because there's always a slight truth in something that people are saying. Maybe not in a direct way and it's going in a roundabout way, but when my employees are doing something and someone says, hey, your employee did this to me, I do an investigation and see that person's story. And until I do my due diligence in finding out what is actually happening and experiencing, I'm not going to sit there and say, well, that's untrue. And that's what you need to do as leaders, is to follow through in those things. I'm going to, break through the smoke and fog that, yes, there's camaraderie on this dais in public, but although your Facebook may be private, screenshots become public. And I really hope that a lot of you take a course on social media and how to respond to people properly and being professional in your responses, Because if you want to engage with the city of Clifton on Facebook and they say something, don't reply basically in between the lines saying, well, if you don't like it here, go somewhere else. That is not professional. So I hope that this is something as professional development for those of you who are not social media savvy, as this is a way of big form of communication, that you really look into that. Because that's what's going to hurt this council, is that there are many of you who have set up here giving statements that are totally just not appropriate and saying things about your colleagues that are not appropriate. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Chris Kraszewski, Edgewood Avenue, Clifton, New Jersey. Well, you know it's Clifton. I'm just here to comment on the suggestion for the polystyrene recycling machinery. Sorry. Polystyrene was banned in the state of New Jersey as of May 2022, so I don't see the benefit of having machine recycling product that we won't have, and not to mention all the other considerations. Sorry, can't read with my glasses on. The green space, emissions, energy, who's going to load the machinery, operate, train, where are these extruded tubes going? I mean, we're not going to benefit. And all the other senior center, animal shelter, and the police, and the art center, how will that be impacted by noise? Trucks, and what kind of trucks? Are they SmartWay certified? And that's really about it. So thank you for your time. Congratulations to you all. Happy 2023.
Good evening. Mickey Gaudette, Bergen Avenue. My first thing, I apologize that I did not speak 2 weeks ago. I do want to congratulate all 7 of you on your election and your seats. You have all been given this amazing privilege, and that's to represent all, and I'm going to say that word again, all the residents of Clifton. I wish you all good luck and wisdom during your term and tenure. My second point to make is when we have a road closure, there is no set of rules on how that happens. And that may not be the experience for other people, but I'm going to give you what's just happened on my street for the past 2 days. The road was mysteriously closed. There were no parking signs at the top of the street. I live between Lexington and Lakeview. And both ends were closed. I now have to park in the municipal lot by Nash Park or in the CVS parking lot because I cannot get down my street. That's a problem. I asked PSE&G this morning what the deal was. Oh, well, there are no parking signs right there where we're working. I said, that's great, but you closed this end of the street and I don't see those signs. So unless I walk all the way up to Lakeview Avenue, I'm never going to see those signs and find out why my road is closed when I come home. Third, while I know we've tabled the Traffic Safety Council and the appointments thereof, I would like to remind you that we still, and this also goes in with, even with a deficit in the budget, we still need crossing guards. We still need crosswalks painted properly. The DOT recommends the ladder effect, not the 2 lines. And I know Mr. Villano knows of which I speak because I've given you that report. I also want to ask, and I'm going to present a solution. Is there a way to hire outside crossing guards? I know there's a traffic safety dilemma with crossing guards have to be within city employees, but is there a way to provide for that? Because even with a deficit, we cannot circumvent safety. My other solution is, can there be those signs that you put in the middle of the street where they'd be temporarily installed and then removed during inclement weather? Lastly, and I'm going to end on a good note, St. Peter's Haven is doing their annual Super Bowl of Caring, which is a 30-plus year movement. This year's theme is called Tackle Hunger. It is on, wait for it, Super Bowl weekend. And yes, the Super Bowl of Caring is SOUPER. We are doing a collection both of monetary donations and non-perishable donations on Saturday, the 11th of February from 9 to 1, and Sunday, February 12th from 10 to 2. And just to leave you with some ideas here, there are 24 million households in America without enough food to live a healthy lifestyle. 11.6 million households with children do not have enough food. 1 in 5 children in the U.S. are food insecure. And this goes out to all the residents of Clifton. Imagine if every one of us, every one of the residents in Clifton was able to donate $1 or 1 can. How fortunate would the Haven be to provide for those in need? Thank you very much. Council, I am going to go home and sit and watch the rest of this, so if anyone does address my concerns, I will be watching. Thank you.
Francesco Moyo, Meadow Court, Allwood section. Good evening. I would first like to congratulate Mayor Grabowski and the rest of the council. I wish you the best of luck. Prior to the D-Day invasion by the Western Allies in World War II, General Dwight D. Eisenhower prepared a separate statement to be released in the event the invasion failed. In this statement, Eisenhower took full responsibility and accountability for that potential outcome, shielding all those involved from any potential blame. I think this action sums up why General and President Eisenhower is considered one of the greatest leaders in American history. Why did I share this? We find ourselves in difficult times. Leadership is needed. We have high inflation, overtaxed citizens, and a city government facing a sizable budget shortfall. There may need to be layoffs in the city government, and taxes may have to be increased. Under our form of government, the mayor and city council are part-time. Currently, the mayor, council, and select other part-time employees are entitled to health benefits. These benefits are expensive. This is a generous perk for a part-time employee, and one that has become quite rare in the state of New Jersey. Eliminating this perk will not only save the taxpayers a chunk of money, but it could also prevent some layoffs of full-time employees. I urge this council to show some leadership and eliminate health benefits for the mayor, council, and part-time employees, effective as soon as possible and on a permanent basis. Thank you.
Good evening, Jim Daly, Beverly Hill Road, Clifton, and good evening, Mayor Grabowski and council members, and congratulate you all on your election and wish you all the best in your tenure here on the council and doing your best for the citizens of Clifton. I am here representing Clifton Citizens for Change. We are circulating a petition to modify our form of government. We suspended our activities from the beginning of October through the swearing in of the individuals for council, so as not to interfere or detail anything different from what you were going through. So we are now back up and running. As you all well know, our group is promoting a petition to be placed on the ballot so the voters of Clifton can decide for themselves if they want staggered elections for the council members and to vote for the mayor directly. It's that simple. We are inviting the mayor, the council, and all interested citizens to come to our open public information forum, which will be held tomorrow at the Elks Club Lodge, 775 Clifton Avenue. Doors will be open at 7 p.m. We are asking those who are watching and listening to this telecast to share this invitation with their fellow citizens. All things change in life. Nothing ever stays the same. We're proposing modest modifications to our form of government that we are asking the voters to consider, and ones that we have a positive feedback. Why vote for the mayor directly? Two main reasons. Why should we not? Regardless of the mayor's powers, that person is the visible head and leader of the city. The person has the ability to set the tone and vision for our city. When individuals run for that position, it is incumbent upon them to explain to the electorate their vision and direction of how they wish to guide the city. Right now, none of that happens in Clifton. Second, staggered council elections. In the proposed charter change, elections of the council seats will be every 2 years. Part of the council seats will be up for election in the first cycle, and the remaining council seats will be up for election in the second cycle, 2 years after the prior election. The reason for this is the opportunity for greater accountability to the Clifton electorate. Also, if citizens are not pleased with how things are going, we do not have to wait 4 years for our voices to be heard. This will also provide some continuity by avoiding a situation where a wholesale change can come at one time when we have concurrent 4-year elections for the entire council. Again, tomorrow we'll have the opportunity to be informed in a much greater detail than I have time for here today. Again, invite you all and all the citizens to come, and we'll have a question and answer forum, not a debate, about providing you all the information that is contained in the petition. We've been working on this since February of 2022, and a tremendous amount of research. One of my colleagues is here, Ray Robertello, who's part of our group here. So again, we invite you to attend and get informed. We appreciate the time and wish you all the best, and have a good night.
Anyone else wish to be heard?
Hi, Judith Bassford, Mountain View Drive, here as a private citizen. I'd just like to know when there's going to be a meeting with the water representatives. I did get a voicemail saying that they're going to be looking at streets that they're going to change piping. I'd just like to know. I was going to bring a towel, cleaning out my laundry closet, we're purging, and I found a towel. Interestingly enough, I buy white towels. It's now beige or brown. So I'm going to bring it. I'm not going to throw it out. I want to show you the original versus the one that it was. It's proof. It is a major issue for me. I'm just tired of living that way. So I'd like to know when the representative is coming, because I want to be here, because I have a lot of questions, and I'm hoping that there's an open dialogue with the community, because I think we deserve it. Because I've lived there for 26, 27 years, and being in COVID, we learned a lot about house living and being, quarantined, and also learning about dirty water. And it's not fair, because I'm starting to wonder what it's doing to our bodies inside and out. We take showers. It just reminds me of that episode from Sex and the City where Charlotte opens her mouth in Mexico, and then she gets dysentery for the next 3 days. Like, what's going on? I know it's funny. And people think it's a big joke. I get stopped in the street. They call me the water lady. I don't think that should be my label. I have other labels that, I'm proud of wearing every day, but it's a serious issue. And there's a lot of people some woman stopped me last week and said, "You're not alone. We have the same issue." And I said, "You have to come and speak," because they don't know that you're there. The other thing is, what's up with the metal detectors? Because I was just identified, I beeped. I have a disability, I have a knee replacement. Now the whole world knows I have a knee replacement. It's embarrassing. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard?
Motion to close the public portion.
Okay. Firstly, thank you, Trini Mestri, for coming up. Obviously, we always encourage and welcome people to come up to the mic. As you see tonight, a lot of people came up with concerns, and, we take that into consideration. A lot of things we refer to, maybe the city manager or legal, so we'll take care of that. And I'm going to use this in my 10 minutes, but Mr. Perino, lawn signs on private property can stay indefinitely, but they have to be taken off on any other sites where they're not allowed anyhow. And our city does go around, if they see a roofer sign, on public property, they take it down. But as far as other signs on private property, people are allowed to leave it up there. So just to answer that question. But anywhere else, our city usually does go around and take the things off the properties, which, I'm
Mayor,
sorry.
if you'd like, I could expand on that a little
Sure.
bit. So we did revise many, many years ago the political signs ordinance because of some Supreme Court case law that came down that made it very difficult to restrict them. So what we did do, though, is the city clerk has a code of conduct for all council members and council candidates with suggested guidelines as to when they should take their signs down and all the various regulations that we placed on them. It's political speech that's protected under the First Amendment. The other signs that are referenced, though, are different. You can't put private contractor signs or things of that nature on telephone poles or public utilities, and we do have a series of ordinances that regulate that conduct.
And I know the city workers go around and take them off.
Quality of life, I pick them up myself, so whenever I see one that's in the right-of-way, I just pick it up and I remove it. But on private property, we cannot touch that.
All right, so, but I'll answer some of these in my 10 minutes. Today, we'd like to start with Councilman Kaloje.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor. I'll start out by thanking everyone who came to the microphone this evening to share your concerns and your suggestions. They have been heard, at least by one member. Mrs. Bassford, I would suggest that you attend a Passaic Valley Water Commission meeting. Our next meeting is on the 25th at 9:30. If you cannot attend, send an email to the board secretary. Your email will be read into the public record. Council Mail number 4 noted that our sewer utility is self-liquidating. Happy news for sure. I don't know when the current rate study expires or when we're scheduling to do the next rate study.
For the sewer?
Yes.
I believe it was a 4-year study. I'm going to say it's 2024 it expires. I'll double check it.
So I would hope that we're going to be proactive and start to look at doing a rate study prior to when this one expires, similar to what we experienced with the garbage contract last year. As part of our discussion on the recycling of polystyrene or foam or styrofoam or whatever it's called, some of the backup information that we were provided with showed us tonnage through the past 5 years. And one of the things that struck me as unusual is we switched to commingle in 2022, and the amount of tonnage that we recycled for paper and cardboard was actually reduced. And I don't know if there's a readily available answer to that or if we can get a memo. I don't know if it's contamination and loads are getting rejected that are causing the issue, but it seems unusual to me that we would actually make it easier and more convenient to recycle and then see less recycling coming in. The one thing that I do want to talk about this evening is the New Jersey Anchor Program. The Homestead Rebate Program was dramatically changed in 2010 under Governor Christie. Renter eligibility was suspended. Payments now went directly to towns instead of the property taxpayers, and the eligibility requirements became more stringent, where over half the people who were eligible to get a homestead rebate in 2009 were now no longer able to get that credit. Last year's 2018 homestead rebate, just to give you an idea of eligibility, you needed to be over 65 years of age with less than $150,000 in gross income in order to be eligible for the rebate. If you were under 65, you had to make less than $75,000, which makes little sense to me that a retired person can make a whole lot more and a working person would make a whole lot less. You had to own your home in 2018, and again, tenants were not eligible to get this. That has changed this year. The state has put in a program where they're replacing, at least this year, the homestead rebate program with the Affordable New Jersey Communities for Homeowners and Renters, the ANCHOR program. And the key changes to this is that renters who make less than $150,000 a year are now eligible to receive $450. There's no age restriction anymore. Eligibility is tied to your 2019 gross income. Homeowners who made $150,000 or less are eligible to receive a $1,500 check. Homeowners who made more than $150 but less than $250 are eligible to receive a $1,000 check. Instead of the money going directly to towns as a credit on our tax bills, the ANCHOR program comes directly to the homeowners and the renters. And the state's goal is to begin making these payments in May. Now, the state didn't do a very good job of publicizing this change, and so they originally had a deadline of the end of 2022. They've extended that now to the end of February. So you have 6 weeks to get an application in. And part of the issue was, because they didn't publicize it, when the application came into people's homes, they looked at it and thought it was a scam and just threw it out. So if you have not already applied, there is still time to apply for this program, which is designed to help offset property taxes. With the tax increase that we all saw in our bills this past year, who couldn't use another $1,000 to offset that increase, or $1,500, depending on where you are with your 2019 income. But the problem is that in order to do this, there are some things that you need to have in place. The first thing is you need an ID and a PIN number. You have to apply for that, and it can take up to a week to get. If you can't find your 2019 tax return, you can also fill out a form, and the state will let you know what your income was in 2019. But that is also another form that you need to fill out, and without the ID and PIN number, they won't process the form. So now we're up to 2 weeks, potentially, as your ability to apply. I think what is important to understand here is that this is money that is going to go directly into our pockets, not the town's pockets. The town's already gotten paid. We paid our third and fourth quarter taxes. We're going to pay our first quarter taxes in a couple weeks. So this is money that you're leaving on the table. So if you have not yet applied for this ANCHOR program, I would urge you to go to the state's website, which is nj.gov/treasury/taxation/ANCHOR. And all the information that you need to begin this process is there. And again, if you don't have any of the stuff that's in place, it's going to take at least 2 weeks to get squared away to do that. And with the February 28th deadline, time is a-wasting. But once you have this program squared away, by May, the state is saying that they're going to start sending us money to help us offset the increases that we've seen in our taxes. So if you have not, I would urge everyone, this is money that it belongs in your pocket, not the state's. The city's already gotten their share. So please consider applying for the ANCHOR. That's all I have, Mayor.
Good evening, everyone. I thought it was going to be a quicker night, but so many great questions came out that I'm going to probably use more of my time. However, Councilman Kaloje talked about the ANCHOR program, so he took that off my list from answering. I'm sorry I didn't get your name, ma'am, from Valley Road. During the campaign and over the years, it drove me crazy as I watched the same roads get dug up over and over again. It affects the quality of life of the residents, it affects the taxpayers, it affects the small businesses who are on those roads, who people can't get to those businesses because 4 or 5 different utilities are digging it up months apart over and over. So I don't know what that answer is other than us as a mayor and council through the city manager somehow trying to get all of the public utilities into a group chat, a group email, that when they're going to do construction, I'm a firm believer, I said it during the campaign, when a road is dug up, we should notify all the other utilities the road is dug up. If they choose not to replace those lines or make those upgrades, whether it's Verizon, Passaic Valley Water, sewer, Cablevision, whoever it is, that for 5 years that road can't be dug up unless it's for an emergency. So I'm 100%, 1,000% on board with that. Something needs to change because we've talked about this for years over and over, and nothing changes. And we talk about it and talk about it. So whatever we need to do as a mayor and council, we need to make that change. So if we can put that on for a future discussion item to somehow get that to happen. That was that question. Okay, Joe, speaking about the fights happening at the high school and off the grounds. Years ago, this came up. We have so few people, right? The Clifton pays so much of the county taxes. And through my sources at Passaic County Tech, I was informed that they have, and this is years ago, 100 security guards plus Passaic County sheriff's officers who, when school gets out, are making sure everything's good for the kids to get home safely. So obviously, we pay 0.25% of the county taxes, whether we need to go through the speaking to the sheriff, that we get more help here at Clifton locally, just like they do with PCTI, to get more support to supplement our police officers on school grounds to prevent that from happening. Speaking of the homeless issue that you also brought up on Main Ave, the minute I heard that we were going to put the homeless shelter on Main Ave, it hit me totally, saying a majority of the problem is in Botany Village, but now we're going to bring them to Main Ave, which is going to cause problems on Main Ave with the small business owners, with people coming, going, and leaving. I don't know, on a longer-term scale, this code blue that came out was quick, right? So we had to come up with a location to put it. It made sense to put it where we put it on Main Ave, but maybe for next year, we can look at, there's a lot of empty parking lot space at the old Pathmark, at the old Kmart over there. If there's a location we can help put together down in the area where the problem is most, to fix that problem in the future. Signs after, Gary, I'm sorry, a few things with Gary. Signs after the election. I got a call last week. There was still one of my signs somewhere down at Costco in the area. I had one of my people come and get it. I actually have in my card tonight signs for about 7 different candidates from Board of Ed and City Council, that as I picked up my signs, if I seen anyone other signs, or one of my helpers were picking up signs, I asked them to pick up other candidates' signs. So actually in my car right now, I have zip-tied, because I have OCD, about 7 or 8 other council members' signs. And I still see random signs, and like the city manager said, if I'm around and I see anyone's sign, I'll randomly pick it up for them. But I'm pretty sure at this point, 99.9% of the signs are gone. Also, you brought up the McMansions, high-density housing. Same thing. The zoning laws and the master plan need to have those major upgrades to stop this from happening, because it only affects the residents, right? By having this McMansion built right next to your house, you have a single-family house, and now all of a sudden, a 4-family property feet away from your home gets built where you're not even getting sun in your yard anymore. So obviously, I ran on my contract with Clifton on that. So we need to work as a mayor and council to make those upgrades to the zoning laws and the master plans. Conflict of interest, it is very selective. You know, I took an oath of office, we all did up here, right, to make ethical decision-making processes. So I'm always going to vote when I can, and I'll abstain when I feel it's necessary. That my 5 minutes already? Okay, I'm going to have to speak faster. Chris with the phone machine saying that item is banned. I don't know if that's something we have to look through at the committee. I never heard that foam that we're going to be using it for is banned as of this year. Mickey, thank you very much for your support. With the road closures, it's the same thing. We need to come up with a better process when roads are closed to let the residents know. I don't know if Chris D'Amato's watching, but he was our technology guy running on the campaign trail. He said it's possible for us to have a live city map that we can look into in real time when roads are closed. Crossing guards came up. I was told we can't outsource that, but if you look at our crossing guards, we need to affect that issue. So they're making starting pay $16 an hour. They work 3 hours a day. That's $48 a day. Only 240 hours a week, $8,600 a year to be out in the cold, the wind, the snow, the heat, protecting our kids. And again, we can't keep crossing guards. We're pulling safety officers, we're pulling police officers off the road, so now people have to wait an hour or two in waiting for a traffic accident in the morning because we had to pull a police officer to fill that spot. We're pulling quality life officers and traffic ticket officers off, so now they're not bringing in revenue to the city. We need to raise that pay to keep those crossing guards here. Francesco brought up the part-time benefits. I've always been against part-time benefits for full-time full-time benefits for part-time employees. I've brought it up for years. I think we have 100 part-time employees, but I think only the top highest paid part-time employees receive medical benefits, when if we should be giving it to anyone at all, it should be going to the lowest paid employees who probably need it the most. When it comes to same thing, part-time elected officials receiving it, same thing. I've always been on record saying I don't believe it's possible, but if it is going to happen, it should at least be paid for at least what city employees pay, an average city employee pays for the same benefits. I want to make sure I don't miss anyone. Jim Daly brought up the change of elected government. I've been on board back and forth on this. I love the idea of staggered elections because you have less people running. It gives you the opportunity to have more time with the electorate when you're campaigning and voting for the mayor separate. I like the idea, but then when I heard that the mayor would only vote when there's a tie, it kind of goes against the accountability and leadership. In my opinion, if we're going to vote for the mayor separate, I'd like to see the mayor position vote first to set the record on where they are if we want to go for accountability and leadership. Going into my council notes now, I'm going to skip a few of these. Passaic Valley Water Commission, a lot of pipes have been bursting. We have to come up with an infrastructure plan, I guess, working with Councilman Kaloje. This new president, I got to say, his leadership style is 1,000% great. He's being proactive. He's talking to the residents. I think we need to work through him to come up with this long-term infrastructure plan, because something is going wrong that we have many pipes bursting in Clifton more than any place else. I had a chance, I visited the homeless shelter on Main Ave last month. It's a great job for it being put together by all of our city departments. I see there was a partnership, I think it was with St. Peter's, also bringing in food. Today on social media, Facebook, Samantha Bassard actually brought up trying to have a dialogue. Steve Demko brought up that St. Paul's is almost like a subject matter expert in this. So to partner with them, because we're not going to solve the problem. Government is not going to solve this problem. I've been in the military for 30-something years, working in city government. It's not going to solve the problem. The best way to solve our homeless problem is going to be a partnership between private and public sectors working together. So if St. Paul's, through Steve Demko, has something they could bring to the table, I think we should also partner with them to help solve the problem. Recycling program updates. Joe brought up the cardboard reduction. We talked about that. Part of the problem was with COVID being COVID, a lot more people were in lockdown mode. So I was asking the very same questions. We were home more, we were in a lockdown position more, so is that creating more of the recycling at home, and now people are out more? Am I out of time? Wow, I gotta work on my time more. Kids are going back to college semester. Please stay safe, good luck, and pursuing your dreams. Thank you.
Councilwoman Murphy.
Thank you. Ms. Mestry, who I think is not here anymore. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. I live 2 houses off Valley Road, so I know that it's been going on for months and months, and every time I drive my car from Patterson, where I work, up Valley Road, in my head I'm saying bad words, but it is a county road, and they did start all the way at the top, and now they're all the way down by Dunkin' Donuts, and soon after that, it will be Patterson, so it won't be affecting the Clifton people. Well, it will, because we have to drive through Patterson to get there. But I promise you that as soon as that part is done, which it seems like it's at the end, that I will do everything I can to make sure that the county paves the road, and that, evidently, whatever they're doing under there needs to be done. I guess the pipes are old. I don't know the reason for it. But I will make sure that I get in touch with the county and raise Cain about making sure that they pave that. So thank you for bringing that up. About the warming center, We have been working on this for years, trying to find a special place for people who are in the homeless situation, which right now we have between 13 and 17 homeless people. And the count is coming up in a couple of weeks to count for the new year. It's not a homeless shelter. It's only for when the temperature goes below 32 degrees. And Mr. Ciano, if you could please contact me and let me know the businesses that are having problems, because we did go, I've been very involved in this, and we did go door to door to all the businesses and let them know what was happening. We do have a police officer there at all times, and I've been there many nights and mornings, and it's being very well run, but again, we can't control what happens when they leave at 9 o'clock in the morning when the temperature goes up. So please let me know who those businesses are. Crossing guards, Mr. Villano, do you know how many we're short now?
We're only down a few. I don't know the exact number, but it's a handful.
Like 2 or 3?
Yep, but I'll double check that.
Okay, thank you. And I always report on my committees, meetings. I have quite a few of them. I had no committee meetings in the past 2 weeks. Disabilities was scheduled for January 9th, which was Monday that we had the date of our formal swearing in. So I was not at that meeting. I think it was canceled, but I'm not sure. I do have 3 committee meetings this week, and tomorrow night is one at 6 o'clock, and there are 2 on Thursday. Thank you all who came out tonight. Seems like this is going to be a much calmer year. I hope it stays that way, and have safe travels home. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilwoman Pino.
Thank you. Good evening. Mayor, through you to our city manager. Mr. Villano, the speaker, Joseph, he came up. He also brought up regarding the fighting at CHS after school hours. Has that been reported to you?
What happens when there are fights once they leave the school? Our PD usually gets involved. So when that happens, police is on call. They go and address the fighting or the disturbance. And we usually follow them to make sure they leave the area.
So can we send this concern, because, I mean, and maybe please correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, obviously we don't have that forum, but if I am, in the sense that what I took from what he was informing council is that this is not a one-time incident. It seems to be happening more and more often.
It's pretty often, yes.
So, and as a parent, I think anyone, if my kid is coming back with a broken nose, that's a huge concern. So, that all being said, is there something that we can do above and beyond from what we already are doing?
Well, I think
or can we
should-
bring it over to the committee?
Well, yeah, I think we should discuss this with the high school, with the Board of Ed, because clearly they have some liability in this as well, right? So, we have to, basically what I'm doing is I'm using my resources to handle the problem, but really it stems from them leaving the high school and them walking home. Many times within a block of City Hall here, we have a riot,
So can we do 2 things? Can we try to cover all bases? Can we schedule, can we call a meeting with the Board of Ed?
We would have to schedule a meeting with the
Right.
Board of Ed, yes.
Right, so can you have Leanna reach out to the Board of Ed tomorrow and see what the availability is? That's something
Actually, I also have one other item that we're waiting on a response for, and I believe was on tonight's agenda. It deals with School 9, and that is also something we're investigating, and it's going to be sent over to traffic safety. So I will start the conversation with the superintendent of schools as to when we can meet, but I'll need a little more time because there's other things that we need to discuss with them.
With all due respect, Mr. Villano, I don't think that this, given the urgency, that we need to put something in place now, because while I can appreciate that we're waiting for other things, the fact is that every day we're running a risk if we're not putting measures out there in place, and this is an ongoing thing with the youth getting into it after school hours. So, I ask you to please schedule this and start that process now, because it's not a conversation that we can.
And just so you
hold
know,
off
this
on
is not the first time we hear this. I mean, this has been going on for 80 years I've been a city manager. I can
I went to
count the
Clifton High
number
School.
of times that we've been called out to address that. So it's not something that is just happening. It's, it usually happens.
I get it, but the fact that it's still, I went to Clifton High School, I know,
Yeah,
but,
so-
but the fact.
Well, I hear you. We should schedule a meeting with the Board of Ed and see what they could do. They
Excellent.
have to allocate some resources as well, maybe,
Okay, so also I wanted to follow up on the warming center. So I just wanted to get clarity. Councilwoman Murphy just said that we really have no control after 9 o'clock when they leave the facility, where they go. But I was under the impression that we're using the recreation center on Main Ave as for Code Blue, and that when I don't know what the right term is, when it's lifted, I guess, right? We actually take the individuals back to where they came from. So is that not what's happening? Are we just letting them leave?
So many people wonder, how did we get here, right? How did this warming center originate? Well, we looked at other sites, and it just wasn't practical, nor do we have any money, because when the state implements these measures, they're not funded, so they're an unfunded mandate. So in essence, I got to go find a place, I got to retrofit the place. So we found that the rec center was the ideal place, because it doesn't cost us anything as far as renting space, but I realized that there would be a problem to the area, because now you're taking these homeless individuals, you place them in a new environment, and my concern was, and I met with the business owners, the downtown Sid people. So before we even started, I met with the residents and the business owners, and my response back was that the way the plan that I approved, what it says is that we go and pick them up like we're supposed to. Actually, we're supposed to get help from the sheriff's officers. Councilman Latone, I noticed you mentioned about utilizing them more. We're not getting help. Okay, so it's on our own. We have to provide our own police. So what I have to do is I have to send the police to go pick them up, bring them to the center. What's happening now that they know that the center is there, places like, I guess the word is out, and residents from Patterson and some of the other towns are walking down to our center. That's a problem for me, because again, we're bringing individuals that don't belong in the area, and now you're getting them acclimated to a new spot. The way I set up the plan was that we pick them up, and when you release them, you get a car and you bring them back with the same locations where you picked them up. Whether it's warm or cold out, you give them a ride back. Now, if this is starting to be a problem, I have two choices. One, I'm going to shut the center down, right? And then we're going to tell the state, I'm sorry, it's not working out, because we're not getting any money from you, and we're basically on our own. Or we need to go back to what I said and the way I set up the plan. We pick them up and we bring them back. Anybody that walks along the area, well, really, they should either get a ride or they should not be allowed into the center.
Could you, from what you just said, your last directive was to ensure that everyone goes back to where they came from, correct? Is that what my understanding is? And that's...
Well, because what the program says is that whenever the county calls a code blue, they sent an email out saying, tonight, there's going to be a code blue, starting at 9 p.m., you got to go and round up the individuals. Our responsibility is to go out and to places, which is also in the plan, it's places that we know they hang out at. So we go to those areas and we pick them up from there, ask them if they want to come to the center. But I guess what's happening is, as the program is getting relaxed, now we're having people just walking over, that they leave when you have to stay there from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m., and when you leave, you're supposed to be transported back to where we picked you up. So it avoids having individuals roaming around the area and affecting the business owners and the residents.
So can we follow up with that, because what you asked is not being done? Okay, thank you. Mr. Villano also, I had a couple residents reach out to me from Hanningfield Road and Broad Street. They're stating that that intersection has just gotten worse and worse with regards to accidents and people just really safely not being able to cross the street in general. So is there any way we can get this over also to the Traffic Safety Council, maybe?
Yes.
A traffic safety study, a traffic study? of
Well,
some
yeah,
sort?
we would use our professionals to give us guidance on how to address it, and then they make recommendations to the council.
All right, perfect. So we can get that for that. Mayor, to you, through our city clerk, Ms. Ferrigno, was the annual meeting notice for El Especialito sent out like we do every year? Okay, all right. When was that? Could you, when you have a chance tomorrow, could you just email me the date that was sent out to Especialito for advertising? Because I haven't seen it, so I'll wanna, if we can follow up with them and find out why they haven't posted it, thank you. I did receive also the committee meetings minutes. So I do have a couple questions on the minutes to Mr. Villano, Mayor, to Mr. Villano. On one of the minutes here for the minutes for the Disability Committee, for unfinished business, it states, not enough room to accommodate, this is for Bed Bath & Beyond, not enough room to accommodate wheelchairs in front of store. They can remove part of the skirt to give more room between walls and columns, or they can take away some parking spaces. Are we talking about Bed Bath & Beyond over on Route 3?
Yes.
That's been there for quite some time.
It
They've
has.
always had this issue, and we're just addressing it now?
It was brought to the to the ADA committee, and we investigated. I actually went out there myself to look at it, and I made that recommendation because it's been there for so long, and it really, you're talking about an inch short of what it's supposed to be. So if you look at the column, there's a skirt around it. I said, why don't you just remove the skirt on the one side, so it gives you that extra inch, and you solve the problem. The other thing to do would be to move the sidewalk into the parking lot, lose a couple of spaces, and I said, that doesn't seem very practical. So we referred it, actually, we sent it to the wrong address. I corrected that, and we made sure it went to the owner of that development, and he is aware of it now.
Okay, because these minutes are from November 21st, it's now January 17th.
It was sent to the wrong address.
Okay.
So I corrected the address as well, and I made sure that it got over to the developer.
Perfect. Just a couple more minutes, I'm sorry. Mayor, I was just addressing.
Councilwoman, I'd ask if everyone could stick to the 10 minutes out of respect for everyone.
Yeah.
If the council, give you another minute or two.
Yes, please, just
Up to
because
the
I was,
council.
we
Up
didn't
to the
get.
council.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, because we didn't get to address.
But I'd like to ask everyone, please, okay?
Okay, no problem. We just didn't get to address a resident who came up to speak, so I wanted to make sure that some of his stuff were addressed. So I guess I'll reach out to you, Mr. Villano, to follow up on some of these things, because it's, as I'm reading these minutes, it just seems odd to me that we're having some of these issues on places that we've been there for some time. Anyway, just to wrap it up, I do have some other things, but just to wrap it up, I'm going to end, unfortunately, on a sad note. So today on Facebook, as I was getting ready, I saw a post that a beautiful soul of Clifton, Loretta, and I hope I'm not going to butcher her last name, Hodgmuth, passed away. And I just want to share a really quick story. Since I came on the scene, I always saw her. She was always so kind and so friendly to me, and I wasn't really sure of her name, and I hate butchering people's name, so I started calling her Beautiful Lady. And after time passed, I got to know her more. I remember her name, but every time I looked at her, and I said, "Oh, Beautiful Lady," because she's her soul. She was just a beautiful soul. So it saddens me, her passing, and my condolences to her family. May she rest in peace. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you.
Councilwoman Sajjakula.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Thank you, everyone who came out. Mayor, through you, to I don't know if this would be to legal, I think to legal. We had on, and Francesco mentioned the health benefits for part-time employees, including the council. Since 2010, the first time I ran on that platform, and I really agree with you. In fact, it used to be a question on the best practices, where if you answered, you had to list the name of the employees, the part-time employees that took the health care benefits. So I'm right on with you. We ask employees to take cuts, but most towns have eliminated that benefit. Also, another thing that has been eliminated by most towns is that while we're on council, we get a life insurance policy of $50,000. Call the state, and when you talk to them, they'll say, what? They've never heard of it before. So yes, there are things that we could do to that. But on that vein, Mr. Piori, I don't know, we talked about confidentials with the ordinance reading, with the change in the health care for retirees. Does that also account for council members? If they leave office? No?
No, it does not.
So they would have to pay for health care benefits after?
I believe there's a provision in the ordinance, I'd have to double check it, that if you're on the council for a certain amount of time, it entitles you to purchase health benefits at full cost in retirement.
Full cost, meaning the city's cost as a retiree.
Whatever the,
Right, I think it's two terms,
actual
if I
COBRA
remember
rates
correctly.
are. Yes.
Okay, that was my question. Mayor, through you to Mr. Villano. Lakeview Avenue. The decorative streetlights have been out since, I think, in November. When, and I know I had emailed you and you were sending it to the city engineer, how long does it take to get new bulbs? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, unfortunately, there is no follow-up, so we have a link that we could report the outage, but we can't go back in and say, where is it? You know, so PSCNG doesn't provide that update. So in essence, once we report it, we have to follow up and say, hey, you know, we went back there and it hasn't been done, you know, what's taking you so long?
So we will.
But to your question, those were put in under, when I was the city engineer, so they should not be all out. There's definitely something is wrong with either the wiring or something, so I will personally follow up with that to make sure that those are put back. And incidentally, when we put the decorative, we left the Cobra heads, the ones that are on the pole, on at the same time, so you have really two sets of lighting along Lakeview.
I understand, but people
Yeah.
have been.
But nonetheless, we're still paying for it, so we should get it
Right,
fixed.
exactly, thank you. Good news, it's been a pet peeve of mine, as everyone knows. Our budget meetings will no longer be held on Saturday. Our first budget meeting will be held, and thank you to my colleagues, we voted unanimously for that. The budget meeting is set for January 31st at 6 p.m. So those, I hope people can come out and listen to see how your tax dollars are being spent. Nancy, I wouldn't want your job to have to contact all of us for setting up meetings. I am sure it is a nightmare. But I have a solution. Instead of emails, because I don't know about everybody else, but I'm emailed out. How about we have a calendar where it could just, I don't know who could do it, it's not my position, but just, okay, this meeting is now, this is meeting. I don't see the need for weekly updates and all this other kind of stuff. I don't see it. If you have a calendar, so you know there was the disabilities meeting or there was this meeting, and if you want to see, you know, or follow up, you can. I think we all have to try to make everybody's life easier. I think everybody has so much to do, and that might be a way. So,
Thank you. On the committee sheet, which is 22 pages long of all the committees, it does have when each of the committees that have secretaries, it has when they meet, and the planning board and the zoning board. So that's, I think, what she was referring to was maybe like the census committee, the committees that you make up while you're sitting here, or the committees that are on call. That's impossible to call all of them to find out every week.
No.
You know, that's impossible. But we'll see what we could do.
thank you. A lot of people have come up to speak. I don't, if it's Valley Road, whatever road, the digging up and redigging up of roads is just ridiculous. And Valley Road, PSENG was doing it with drilling right when school started. Not all summer long, they were doing it with drilling. And the teachers were complaining, the parents were complaining that how could you concentrate? And I think it was the week they were doing some kind of testing in schools, and they felt the students couldn't concentrate. So it is a huge problem. I hope we can coordinate with everyone and do it, because it's just nonsense. Fights, I don't know why we have to meet and I'm not against having our meetings, but I think that's something that, Mr. Villano, you can handle. I mean, you've said it's been going on. Have a dialogue with the superintendent, with the police chief. That's out of our purview.
We have those discussions.
I understand. I think you can handle it. I think there's going to be fights, and I think we have a wonderful police department that I know is on top of everything. Zoning board. Gary, unfortunately, we cannot tell the zoning board or the planning board what to do. They're autonomous boards. What we do is the mayor appoints the planning board, and this council appoints the zoning boards. Another thing that this council has already accomplished, which was another pet peeve of mine, is we're having interviews for the zoning board appointments. Those are on the 24th, I believe. Those are not open to the public, right? Those are just, it is public? It is open to the public. Okay, and that time, again, it starts at 6. Thank you, Nancy. So again, we are having interviews for the zoning board. It is a public meeting. You can come out and see the candidates and see what qualifications you believe they have to serve on that most important board. In my opinion, the zoning board after the council is the most important board we have in the city of Clifton, and then the planning board. So again, that is, I think it's a great accomplishment.
Hey, Councilwoman, just an update. I just got received an update from the chief. And basically that those juveniles that were involved, we made there was 8 of them were charged. So we identified them and we arrested them, took action.
I thank the chief for getting back to us. I'm glad he's watching the meeting, and thank you very much. That solved that. Jim, I will not be able to attend that meeting tomorrow night, but I do have some concerns. Number one, I read on the website that you have that if you receive the number of petitions and it was put on the ballot in the spring, the mayor and 2 council people who I would, lack of better terms, draw a short straw, would have to run for re-election next year. All of us up here were duly elected to a 4-year term. So if anything, and again, if anything happens, it should be after the 4-year terms. If you remember, I think you were on the school board when they changed from, I'm going to say May or April to November. The terms weren't shortened. In that time, they were lengthened. Again, I'm not suggesting we lengthen our terms, but all 7 of us up here were duly elected to a 4-year term. And I don't know about you, Mayor, but I don't want to go through that again, what we went through the last couple of months.
Certainly
But
not.
next year, trust me, it was not fun. Also, my concern is about the mayor only voting when there's a tie. Think about this. There's 7 of us up here. You still would need 4 people to pass something. So 4 out of 7 is 57%. But 4 out of 6 is 67%. So again, and we won't talk about ties and when there's a tie, that's enough. But again, those are some of my concerns, so I hope those questions are addressed. Judy, I'm all with you for the dirty water. I mean, look at the number of breaks we have. I'm glad that Passaic Valley Water is starting a plan to replace these pipes because it's almost every day we have a water main break. I did forget someone, I think, but let me just quickly look. Oh, last but not least, I really hope this council, and I know we have a committee to deal with our legislators, but look around. Our neighboring city of Passaic got $14 million from the state, and I think some was federal, to build a parking garage. Look at our city of Patterson. Look what they have gotten with the parks, the all-inclusive parks. Look what they're doing with the grants for the falls. Gary, you said people have a vision. My vision is for this property to be a tourist site. Could you imagine what this was? I mean, as a child, it was a big deal to pass this property and look to see if we saw the giraffes coming out of the barns. Wouldn't it be wonderful to have this as an attraction? It was only one of 2. Done? Okay.
Councilwoman.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry,
Thank you.
I
Thank
didn't
you.
hear
Sorry.
that. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm sorry, Billy, I forgot. I know, okay. I apologize, I forgot.
Thank you, Mayor. It's either good or it's either bad being the last. So most of the things have already been discussed, so I'm going to go to another level here tonight. Through you, Mayor, to the city manager. Nick, will you please get the Christmas tree lights off our tree in the front?
I already gave the instructions to the DPW, and
I
they are going to
know.
be removed. They
All
should have
right.
been, they should have been shut off, so the missing lights are not on.
It started out with a simple question, and I said, I contacted the city manager as we're supposed to do, and it took off, and it was pretty amazing. So please, do me a favor so we can,
I already sent the order yesterday.
I so appreciate that, thanks. Recycling. I know that Councilman Latonum brought up about our recycling, and quite frankly, Rosemary also brought up about being transparent, and she'd like to know when our meetings are going to be, or meetings in general. So at our recycling meeting, we had a very productive meeting, and it also brought up about our waste management and how much it's going to cost this year, and it's going to cost a lot of money. And then we talked about the tipping fees, where you know that Rosselli picks up your garbage, and then they have to bring it to the dump, and then, of course, then the dump gets their cut, so now it hits the taxpayers again. And then we talk about our recycling on taking it out of the garbage to try to limit the amount of money or the amount of tonnage we actually put into the dump. And that's the important thing, because you really have to understand the whole concept behind this. When we do recycling and we pull it out, it obviously has less dumping into the dump. That affects us now, but it also affects us come the future when we go into our negotiations for our contracts. So this whole thing works together. So what we have to do, ladies and gentlemen, is that we have to buy into the program for recycling. It's really important. And we talked about enforcement, we talked about education, but please buy into the program, because it's only going to help us with the money later on. We're looking to do everything we can to try to help our budget this year. Everybody up here is concerned about our budget. So we're looking about every single thing we can possibly do to try to bring the taxes down as much as we can. We all have to do our part. Please look into the recycling program. Try to buy into it. Try to get as much of our recycling out of, so we don't have to dump it. Please, just look at the concept behind it all the way down and work with us so we can work with you to try to keep your taxes down as much as we possibly can. With reference to being transparent, it's important. Tomorrow night, the people that are interested, we have a meeting with the Special Interest District, which is our botany. There are some pretty serious questions that are coming up with the botany, to include some of the things that we talked about tonight with homelessness. Some people think they know, or maybe they don't know, how much effort is being put in to our homeless issue. We have about 17. We're having a point in time coming up very soon to let us know exactly what how many homeless people we're actually dealing with. But people who are interested, please, we have a meeting tomorrow night at the Italian American Club. It's going to be at 6 o'clock. The public is invited, and it'll have to do with a number of issues, and one of which will be homeless. So if you are really interested and you really want to know about what's really going on down there, come down to the meeting. I think it would be pretty interesting to find out how much the city really is involved with all of the things that are going on with the body. Also, you know that we talked about, Jim Daly brought up about tomorrow night. They're going to be talking about maybe moving our form of government. We all know it. We all know about the deal with our form of government versus our 1923 Municipal Managers Law versus the Faulkner Act, all three, one of which would be very similar to ours, something that we have spoken about during our election. So if you really want to find out really what the different forms of government are, how they work, and how it would benefit our city, I think it would be very important for you to come to the meeting tomorrow night to really see how it really works. Whether you're for or against, it's really not the issue. It's to be educated on really what is our future of our government. Joe Solano, with reference to the issue down at the high school. In short, it's a police matter. I know that our department will handle it, and quite frankly, if we need the help of the county, maybe that's something that we should look into, and I know that Councilman Latona brought that up. So, very interesting. In addition, Gary Perino, the signs. We do have an ordinance that does talk about the signs. You can't put them on poles, you can't put them on the stop signs, you can't put them on certain things. So those signs that are put up there are illegal and should be taken down, and if they are taken down, we can also find the people that put them up. You talked about an accident the other day. Well, there was 2 accidents. I happened to see another one at Allwood and Mount Prospect. So we will talk about that at the Traffic Safety Council. Let me see. Our crossing guards, I know that we spoke about our crossing guards, and that's very important for us so that this way our officers don't have to take their positions. In addition, with Mickey Gaudette, I'm going to say let's support that Super Bowl. Whatever we can do to help out as our citizens, we really should do that. And I was asked to bring up, or at least I'll let the people know that next meeting, I think on a discussion item, we are talking about the tree issue, that if the city puts up trees and it elevates your sidewalks, I think that's going to be brought up at the next meeting, if I'm not mistaken. And on a final note, I do have to say also to the Hockmuth family, sorry for your loss, Eric. To your mom, great lady. She was a crossing guard, and what a beautiful lady. And my deepest condolences from my family to yours. All right. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You know, often we hear, we didn't think this would happen to us until it does. We never thought this would happen to us until it does. Gee, this could never happen until it does. That's why these security gentlemen, they're in the back there, for your protection, for your security. Most government agencies have someone at the door. This is very important this day and age. When you hear a 6-year-old or whatever it was came back and shot his teacher, just walk through the door. We're vulnerable right there. Anyone can walk through this door. Yeah, granted, we think this will never happen in Clifton, and that's when it happens. So, you know, you can't be offended by this. We're here, this is here so that when you come to this meeting, you feel safe, that any resident can come out here, and sometimes it's dark. We have someone here to protect you, to protect us. This is the prudent thing to do, and most agencies have this. So, you know, they're not going to wand you down here like an airport, but you go through the security, and this is important because you never know when it's going to happen. So never take it for granted that you're safe or secure. This is our job. We don't want to be here if something happens and then they say, gee, how come you didn't take care of this? How come you didn't have security for us? This is very important. This is a different day and age that we live in here. And you see all around the world, people coming in, shooting people, kids, adults. You never really know. How do you know who's walking through the streets? You don't know. It might not be a Clifton person. A disgruntled person can come in, so it's for your safety, so you feel secure when you come here. Anyhow, this is a new council, and we're going to work really hard. We're going to fix and update the master plan. We're going to work on ordinance revising. This is all going to be done. I know it's way overdue. We've all talked about it during the campaigns, but now we're going to fix this. It's not that it's broke, but it needs to be revised, it needs to be updated. And this council will do this because it needs to be done, and we will do this together. So this council, I think, has the ability, we have the knowledge, the experience to carry these things so that we can move Clifton forward. Let's go on to resolutions, please.
Mayor, really quick, I just forgot to ask something, if I may, to Councilwoman Murphy. You mentioned you have three committees this week that are going to be meeting. What committees are those, just so I can write them down?
Tomorrow night is Bobby Village.
Yeah, I got that one. Okay, this is what Councilwoman is going to be on, her 3 meetings? Well, that was asking her. She had mentioned it. It's okay.
Thursday at 1:30 or 1 o'clock is the Homelessness Committee, and at 2 o'clock is Economic Development.
Thank you.
Or, I don't know if those are the right times, but they're both in the afternoon.
Councilwoman, I think the homeless was moved because there's too much happening on Thursday. So 2 p.m. is economic development. I believe the homeless was moved. And
Well, I called yesterday and they told me it was on Thursday, so I'll check tomorrow.
let's double check because I know I had it removed from my calendar.
Okay, I'll
We
check.
could discuss, but just economic development is 1:30 on Thursday. Nancy, could we go to resolutions, please?
I need a motion to table Resolution RO 58.
I'll make that motion to table.
We need a roll call on that.
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Kalojay?
Yes, the table.
Councilman Latona?
Yes, to table.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pino? Councilwoman Sedricula?
Yes.
Mayor Grabowski?
Yes.
Motion carried. Are there any exceptions?
Move the group?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Kalojay? Councilman Latona?
Yes, to group.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sedricula?
Yes.
Mayor Grabowski?
Yes. Motion to adjourn. Oh, you
We
have,
have to go back into executive session.
Need a motion for executive
oh, we have
session?
to- we have to go back into closed session.
Motion to go back into closed session.
Second.
And we won't be coming back after that, right?
Okay. Whereas the municipal council deems it essential in the furtherance of the public interest to discuss in closed session is expressly permitted by NJSA 10:4-12 the following subjects to wit: CON1 MSU's license agreement negotiations. Now therefore be it resolved that the public should be excused and excluded from that portion of the council's meeting to be held on January 17, 2023, at which time said subject should be discussed. And be it further resolved that discussion held in such closed session can be disclosed to the public on or about the time the matter is concluded.
Oh, you're giving me the, like, what? This is your, yeah. Yeah, I don't need yours. Now, some of the other departments, I don't know, people moving all this stuff.
It'll be brief. It'll be brief.